Dark footage from these horrific exorcisms was supposed to stay buried and never be seen nor heard, but I'm sharing their stories. The Anneliese Michel case. Now, this case is one of the most controversial cases in modern history. Anneliese was a German woman born in 1952 who underwent 67 Catholic exorcism rites over a period of 9 months and during the year before her demise. She passed due to malnutrition, for which her parents and priests were convicted of negligent homicide. Now, she was actually diagnosed with epileptic psychosis and had a history of psychiatric treatment that proved ineffective. By the time that she was 20, she had become intolerant of various religious objects and began to hear voices. Her condition worsened despite medication, and she became despondent, also displaying other symptoms for which she took medication as well. Now, after taking psychiatric medications for 5 years that failed to actually improve her symptoms, Michel and her family became convinced she was possessed by a demon. As a result, her family appealed to the Catholic Church for an exorcism. While rejected at first, 2 priests got permission from the local bishop in 1975. Now, the priests began performing exorcisms and the family stopped consulting doctors. They believed she was being possessed by 6 different demons, with one of them actually being Lucifer. Michel stopped eating food as she thought starving herself would rid herself of the demons that had taken over her body, and passed away on July 1st, 1976 from malnutrition and exhaustion resulting from the neglect of her medical condition after the crazy excessive 67 exorcism sessions. Now, she weighed only 68 pounds and was only 23 years old. The entire process was filmed. The footage is chilling. Anneliese sits quietly before letting out a sudden blood-curdling scream and vomiting a thick black substance. Her face appears to morph, her eyes losing their whites entirely. At one point, a mirror in the room shatters on its own, cutting her cheek, and she laughs, smearing the liquid across her face, whispering, "Now I am whole." The audio you can listen to yourself. It's quite scary. You can't make out everything she says. It's really hard to dissect it, but it's worth listening to if it's piqued your interest. Now, the church immediately confiscated the tapes, of course. A local reporter claimed to have seen a copy and described a section where Anneliese speaks in a deceased relative's voice, complete with matching tone and cadence. Now, that journalist disappeared 3 months later. The footage remains locked in a church vault in Madrid with no known copies confirmed to exist, though many claim to have seen snippets in lost VHS tapes passed around in the 90s. The case, of course, sparked controversy and highlighted the need for careful consideration when dealing with cases of apparent demonic possession, particularly when a medical diagnosis exists. The 1973 Tanaku exorcism tapes. Now, in the secluded village of Tanaku, Romania, a 23-year-old woman named Marcia Irina Cornisi arrived at the Tanaku monastery in 2005, actually seeking peace. Now, diagnosed with schizophrenia, she was placed under the care of a small group of nuns and a priest named Daniel Pedro Cornigo. So, over time, they actually began to believe that she was possessed. What followed was a brutal exorcism that lasted days. Now, Father Corniju, he basically thought that it was not just a mental illness, but rather that Cornisi was possessed by Satan. He would later claim that you can't take the devil out of people with pills and that an exorcism was necessary. In order to restrain her from violent movements, including those causing her to hit herself, the nuns bound her hands and feet and locked her in her room as they participated in the exorcism, basically commemorating the ascension of Jesus. Now, a few days later, they chained her to a cross with her arms stretched and carried her into the church so that they could anoint her. Now, according to Sister Nicoletta, Cornisi had been restrained in the same manner that others who were demonically possessed were. Sister Nicoletta stated that, had Cornisi not been restrained, she could have either unalived herself or unalived someone else. Now, with regard to Cornisi, Sister Nicoletta also stated that Irina knew that she was possessed by evil spirits because she was begging us to tie her up and help her. Her wrists and forehead were then anointed with holy oil, and she was kept in the church for 3 days. They put a towel into her mouth to stop her from cursing and prayed to cast out the devil as they wet her lips with holy water. Footage surfaced, never meant to be released, captured by a journalist who infiltrated the monastery. It shows Cornisi strapped to a makeshift crucifix, her mouth gagged, and her body convulsing violently. She screams not in words, but in very animalistic cannibalistic growls that echo off the monastery walls. Her final hours were spent without food and water, and she ultimately passed of dehydration and exhaustion. Now, Romanian authorities buried the footage, citing national disgrace, but fragments leaked years later on underground forums showing glimpses of her final hours. Shocking and raw, her eyes wild with either illness or something far worse. This case was widely publicized in the Romanian media, and following a lengthy trial, the priest was sentenced on appeal to 7 years, one nun to 6 years and the other 3 nuns to 5 years. However, many of the residents there, including Cornisi's brother, believed her to have suffered from demonic possession. The coroner maintained that the nun's cause of passing was actually due to an overdose of adrenaline given in the ambulance. Louis' exorcism. In the 1940s, a former priest from Missouri attempted to perform a clandestine exorcism in the basement of a private residence in St. Louis. The subject was a teenage boy who reportedly displayed erratic behavior, including writing in Latin despite never studying it, and exhibiting knowledge of private family details he couldn't have known. The St. Louis exorcism, a real-life event that reportedly inspired William Peter Blatty's novel The Exorcist, occurred in 1949 in St. Louis, Missouri, involving the boy Robbie Hunkler, now who allegedly exhibited signs of demonic possession. The event involved multiple exorcisms, including, one at the Alexandrian Brothers Hospital. Robbie Hunkler and his mother actually moved to St. Louis, where they stayed with relatives in Belle Noire. The boy reportedly began exhibiting strange behaviors, including physical manifestations and speaking in a very deep, guttural voice. The family contacted a priest at St. Louis University, who in turn contacted Father William Bowdern, an associate of the university's spiritual center. Bowdern, with permission from the St. Louis Archbishop, performed a series of exorcism rituals. Now, the rituals took place at the boy's residence and basically eventually the brothers' hospital. Now, during the rituals, the boy reportedly exhibited various signs of possession, including the bed shaking, objects flying, and speaking in a strange voice. A camera was set up to record the process for documentation purposes. What it captured was beyond disturbing. At 3:14 a.m. on the second night, the boy broke free from his restraints. The tape, viewed by only a handful of people, reportedly shows his body just twisting in impossible angles and a voice deep and layered, unlike any human vocal range, speaking directly into the lens, saying, "He belongs to me." Shortly after, the basement flooded inexplicably. The priest abandoned the church and was later found in a psychiatric hospital, scribbling symbols on the walls. The footage was classified as sacred and never to be viewed by the public, but stills from the tape were allegedly leaked and passed around the dark web under the file name STLE Exorcism 92. Lastly, we have the case of Clara Sely. Now, she is said to have been possessed when she was a 16-year-old girl at St. Michael's Mission in Natal, South Africa. She was an orphan of African origin and was baptized as an infant. At the age of 16, the girl allegedly made a pact with Satan, and this is said to be the cause of her demonic possession. Clara later revealed this information to her confessor, Father Harness Aremus. Now, in an account written by a nun, Clara was said to be able to speak languages of which she had no previous knowledge. This fact was also witnessed by others, who recorded that she understood Polish, German, French, Norwegian, and all other languages. Now, the nun reported that Clara demonstrated clairvoyance by revealing the most intimate secrets and transgressions of people with whom she had no contact. Moreover, Clara could not bear the presence of blessed objects and seemed imbued with extraordinary strength and ferocity. Now, often hurling nuns even at the, in the convent rooms and kind of just attacking them. Now, the nun reported that the girl's cries had a savage bestiality that astonished those around her. For 6 years, Clara lived in a demonic possession-free life. Now, she felt ashamed for her behavior, asking for forgiveness while seeking humble pursuits. She passed away in 1912 from heart failure at the young age of 22. However, history had lost track of and forgotten Clara in some versions of her story.
Dear Zachary is a good one to start out with, since it's a doozy and a half. The full title is Dear Zachary, a letter to a son about his father, and it's a 2008 American film written, produced, directed, edited, filmed, and scored by Kurt Quinn. Yep. He did everything. It's about Kurt's close friend, Andrew Bagby, who was killed after ending a relationship with a woman named Shirley Jean Turner. Now, she was arrested as a suspect, and shortly thereafter announced she was pregnant with Andrew's offspring, a boy she named Zachary. So Kurt was like, okay, I want to make a video for Zachary about how his dad, because he wants Zachary to know just how great of a man his dad was. And the drama that unfolds while he's making this movie is insane. Like, it's real. It isn't really like true crime, like it's just visceral. Yes, there's parts that are heartwarming, but a lot of it is heartbreaking. And the filmmaker had no idea most of the content of this movie was going to happen. Like, this is only something you can really watch if you're in like an okay emotional state. Because the worst part about it, spoiler alert, the son ends up being killed by the mother right before she takes her own life. Look, I did mention this was dark and awful, right? Ergo why I wanted to get it out of the way first. So in 2009, after watching the film, Canadian MP Scott Andrews introduced Bill C-464, also known as Zachary's Bill, to the Parliament of Canada, and it helps protect young descendants in relation to bail hearings, custody disputes, and it was signed into the law the following year. So yes, while some good came out of this mess, it's still just so awful. House LLC takes place in the aftermath of a haunted house attraction going badly wrong, leaving over a dozen people dead and the police and press with a lot of questions. Years later, the makers of a documentary about the tragedy meet with Sarah, the only known survivor of the team behind Hell House, and she gives them never-before-seen footage detailing to the build-up that fateful night and what really happened. Look, I'm a scare actor myself, so I loved every minute of watching this film. It hits all the right notes. It's incredibly creepy, it has a consistent feel and pace throughout, and it has good actors in all the main roles. The documentary format lends an air of realism to the story, and it is very well done. Like, it does such an effective job of blurring the lines that a lot of viewers wondered, was there a real Abaddon Hotel tragedy true story? And while it does a great job seeding in the lore of the tragedy, Hell House is not based on a real story. The filmmakers filmed this movie on location at the Waldorf Estate of Fear House. It's a haunted attraction in Layton, Pennsylvania. For a decade, the Poughkeepsie Tapes was stuff of legend. It was a type of movie that's only found in like a creepypasta. So if you believe the rumors, this documentary about a serial killer terrorizing Poughkeepsie, New York, used real footage of that man attacking, harming, and killing his victims. Obviously, it isn't the case since it's a completely fictional film about a made-up serial killer, but that hasn't kept the film from holding on to its true story legacy. So the movie opens with the discovery of the tapes themselves. After uncovering 10 bodies in a residential backyard, the police unearthed something far more menacing. Over 800 tapes from the killer, each detailing his heinous exploits. Composed of this found footage, interviews with experts, and one victim's testimony, the movie pieces together the story of the Water Street Butcher. Now, it's kind of a hard flick to watch, and it's best accompanied by a couple of trigger warnings. The eerie mimicry of early 2000s true crime shows like Forensic Files and Unsolved Mysteries is very convincing, making it difficult not to get sucked into the reality of it all. Like, even today, people are tricked into believing that the footage from the tapes is real, despite, the obvious pointing to the contrary. The claim to reality is a constant source of controversy for the film, as is its deeply unsettling content. But the thing that stands out most in complaints is that it wasn't the movie that people preemptively decided it should be. So it premiered in 2007 at the Tribeca Film Festival, where it was quickly snatched up by MGM for distribution. They marketed the movie heavily, but it would all prove a huge waste of money when the film mysteriously vanished from the studio's 2008 release schedule. Though you could find the movie at the time through less than legal means, it didn't get a wide release until it hit video on demand in 2014. Apparently, MGM thought they should be making more money off this venture, and then they pulled it for a never-to-be-seen theatrical release. Okay, finally, 2017, Shout Factory released the movie on DVD and Blu-ray. Just more proof of the value of physical media. So for many of those early viewers, the fun of the mystery was the mystery. Is the footage real? Why did MGM pull it? Was it banned for being too extreme? This and a plethora, if you will, of other questions swirled around online forums in the time from those early trailers to the movie's eventual home release. Yes, the killer's tapes in the movie are graphic, but not in the way people expect. A lot of the violence is off-screen, it's implied or described, but never shown outright, and it forces the audience to imagine the most disturbing moment. Spoiler alert, in what's called the scariest scene in the movie, the killer, posing as a police officer, picks up a hitchhiking woman looking for a ride to the nearest gas station, and when he drives past the station, the woman's face falls into an expression of absolute dread, because she realizes it's no police officer. And over the next 6 minutes, the audience is forced to watch as she hopelessly pleads for her life. If that doesn't terrify you, damn, I wish. Alrighty, next up we have a movie that's so heinous, I'm not even supposed to be talking about it. Actually, I can't even say its title, but let's call it the people-eating mass extinction event of the 1930s. And it's been highly regarded as the first real big found footage movie of all time. Ergo, I wasn't gonna leave it off today's list. This flick from director Ruggero Deodato wasn't his first movie about people eating, but it was definitely the one that got the most flack from the media. He'd been making films since the 1960s, and he had this trademark style. Flashy, grimy pictures with a hardened edge and plenty of coitus and violence. He was one of many Italian directors who facilitated the people eating boom of the late 70s, and he'd already made one such film, The Last C-Word World, before he got around to this one. So, despite his sensationalist style, he'd already proven himself not only a very competent director, but one with depth and ideas worthy of cinematic examination. So this is the story of a professor journeying to the Amazon to discover what happens to a film crew of missing brave young Americans, only to realize that this characterization couldn't have been further from the truth. From the offset, this movie looks at how the mass media portrays its fellow Americans, the marginalization of those outside the land of the free, and what it means to be civilized. The young filmmakers are immediately positioned by the media as victims of local savagery, and when anthropologist Dr. Monroe is set to find them, it is only through his embracing of the local people that he comes across the lost film reels that's gonna piece this whole puzzle together. Broadcasting executives back in New York are foaming at the mouth at the prospect of a new documentary, even more sensational than the crew's previous works, and they're so focused on sensation and viewing figures that the sizzle reel they show includes, the gang forcibly amputating the leg of their guide, literal seconds after he suffers a snake bite. And that's about all I can talk about in detail because, I don't want to get in trouble. As is the case with a lot of old school exploitation flicks, the reels were seized. Why? They were, obscene. But then something crazy happened. Those same reels became evidence in criminal proceedings. This wasn't just a plain old, too devious for public consumption theatrical release. People thought this was a snuff film. And apparently the weirdos who made it were so brazen in their criminality that they were going to throw this big premiere. So the director was brought up on killing charges and was actually forced to bring his actors in for interviews to prove they were still alive, and then demonstrated how they performed some of the special effects. Thankfully, eventually those charges were dismissed. And perhaps slightly more in keeping with Italy's progressive artistic reputation, the courts eventually overturned the movie's ban several years later. But by this point, the director and several of his associates had suffered considerable legal troubles, and countries around the world were banning it, or at the very least censoring it heavily. Now, this film isn't entirely innocent. Although 6 animal deaths appeared on screen, 7 animals were killed for the production, since the scene depicting the monkey's death was done twice, resulting in the death of 2 monkeys. So, I'm not saying I condone this film, but you've got to give it its point in history. And finally, how could I end today without the Blair Witch Project, the pioneer of the found footage genre of horror that we know today? It's a movie with a handheld camera and a dream. When this film came out in 1999, so many folks thought it was real, and it set the tone for what we know as found footage today. Co-written and co-directed by Eduardo Sanchez and Daniel Myrick, the film is about college students investigating the legend of a witch in the woods of Maryland, the shaky camera work, the creepy nature of the forest, and the fact that the movie features characters who feel like regular people all contribute to the film's terrifying tone and legacy. While many horror movies have famous imagery, including iconic villains from slasher movies like Michael Myers from Halloween, Ghostface from Scream, the black and white images of the Blair Witch Project are just as memorable. Personally for me, one of the most unforgettable images, the stick figures that are present in the woods. One co-director, Daniel, he told The Guardian in an interview in 2018 that originally, way back when, he began thinking about a stick figure, and it snowballed, and that's how the movie began. Apparently, he grew up in the woods and swamps of Florida, and for a long time, he had this idea of seeing a stick figure hanging from a tree, and it creeped the hell out of him. That's how you have it, folks. According to astonishing legends, the Blair Witch is actually thought to be based on the story of Moll Dyer, who happens to be one of my favorite witches throughout history to talk about. She is thought to have lived in the 17th century, and she lived alone near Leonardtown. Now, a lot of folks didn't know much about her. She was very mysterious. She was a healer, and people think that a rock in the area has a mark that looks like her handprint. Well, her handprint when she passed. How did that happen? Well, a group of men attacked her, and they were cursed with terrible luck. Because, she cursed them for doing bad things, which suggested that she was maybe a witch, involved in something dark. Because back then, if you were convicted of being a witch, that was pretty much a death sentence. Gettysburg battlefield is an important Civil War historical site, and a ghost hunter's paradise. You don't become one of the most haunted places in all of the United States for nothing, and visitors to the site have reported a whole series of experiences over the years. But is the battlefield actually haunted by the souls of past soldiers, or is it more paranoia? Well, allow me to elaborate. On a site known as a hotspot for ghost sightings is the wheat field, which saw some of the most brutal fighting in the battle, with 30% of the soldiers involved passing away. So it's not surprising that a lot of people have claimed to see the ghosts of soldiers here, still running around like they're still in battle. Looking to go even further and catch a ghost on camera was YouTuber Pulp Video, who set up a hidden camera to film the location overnight. And after combing through hours and hours and hours of footage, the account uploaded a 33-second clip, which it has some paranormal activity. Throughout this clip, footsteps can be heard, and we don't think anybody was present when it was filming. Also, when you're looking at the clip the first time, it looks fine. But after you rewatch it, like multiple times, and you pay attention to the background in the center, there appears to be a figure moving at about 26 seconds in, just before a flash of light can be seen. Sure, yes, there might be some skeptics out there being like, come on Alexa, this looks fake. There's plenty of other videos to back up the argument that this area is majorly haunted. There's another chilling clip captured by Greg Euling, who saw a lot of ghostly figures running about the fields. He said, then we saw these shapes moving in the darkness. They were the size of humans. One of them ran right through the cannon. Liv, known as @StayGoldenPonyBoy on TikTok, turns to an unlikely source for advice on dating or what to wear out. The ghost of a college-aged fraternity brother whom she calls Chad.
So Chad, can you turn off the flashlight? 3, 2, 1, turn off. Okay.
Liv has mentioned in interviews that from a very young age, she was really into the paranormal. She grew up in San Francisco, and the house she grew up in was haunted. Or that's what her mother told her. She would see an old woman in the basement of that house that her parents couldn't see. She'd be like, don't you see that old woman? She's standing in front of the closet. Now, eventually her parents were like, hey, I'm gonna talk to the landlord. They asked, and the landlord was like, oh, my mother died in that house, and I keep some of her stuff there. No biggie. Now, Liv's great-grandmother passed away, and 2 months after she did, Liv started seeing her in the house as well, and it made her mom upset because it was her grandmother, and she'd be like, she's not really here. But then Liv was like, well, I think I'm kind of in tune with something spiritual. And as she got older, it kind of went away until college, until Chad. Liv first encountered this spirit friend in Boston, where she and her roommate accidentally manifested a spirit inside their old Back Bay brownstone. After noticing paranormal activity, the freezer door opening by itself, misplaced items, the record player turning on at random, the roommates named the friendly ghost Chad. After moving to LA and investing in ghost hunting equipment, Liv was able to confirm that Chad had moved with her. Now, almost, 5 years or more after meeting him, Liv shares little snippets of her hangouts with Chad, her beloved chatting sessions, to her almost 200,000 followers on TikTok.
Chad, can you say hi, hello, what's up? I just heard hi, Olivia.
She said that she was hearing footsteps in her bedroom when she moved to LA, and she was catching up on a vibe that something was going on. She described it as the whole feeling where it feels like something's watching you. She said she could feel eyes on herself, so then she bought the ghost hunting equipment because she was like, okay, I want to go with my friends, let's go looking. But then as soon as she got the equipment, she started testing it out in her apartment, and that's when Chad came through and was like, hey, it's me. So when we're talking about equipment, you're probably asking, what does she use to communicate with them? She uses a twist-on, twist-off flashlight. So you turn on the flashlight, not fully on, and that allows her spirits to go up and tap it. If they tap it, the light turns on. She also uses dowsing rods or divination rods. Sometimes she mentions that it's really wild when she holds it because she can feel the ends being pushed, like she can really feel somebody touching it. She's watched a lot of Ghost Adventures, Zach Bagans, love, and she has since acquired a spirit box and a REM pod. So when people were talking in her TikTok comment section, she was like, yep, we're doing it. She has mentioned that it is the same voice that comes through all the time, so it's very obviously Chad speaking through. It is a younger male voice. Every once in a while though, they do get a guest female voice that pops in to say hello. And what she finds super crazy is just the consistency behind each session, even when she's doing it off camera. Speaking of Zach, so he's been turning up the heat with some paranormal passion, because earlier this year, he was busy conjuring up the spirit of a haunted business's former madam, and the proof that he captured is kind of saucy. So back in May, there was an episode that aired where Zach goes to this Utah place of former body selling business, and he tries to lure its long deceased madam named Rose with a little cold hard cash. And then what happened next was kind of hilarious. I think we have the clip, so I'll let you watch it now. As you can see in the footage, Zach gets comfy on the bed waiting for Rose's spirit, but when she literally ghosts him, he calls in his buddy, Aaron Goodwin. He's like, okay, why don't you try it, take over for me. And it looks like Rose liked the idea. So their camera captured what they said was a human figure at the foot of the bed reaching for the money. And then all of a sudden, Aaron found himself in a ghostly embrace because the figure actually mounted his body, leaving everybody else giggling uncontrollably. Rightfully so. Zach told TMZ that he was awkwardly excited to see the movements of the spirit figure, to first see the spirit appear to grab the money, then fully mount my friend while grabbing the headboard, and then completely vanish after the business was done was incredible. He mentioned that they had never captured a scene like that in the history of the show, and he mentioned I'm still a little offended that I was turned down by the madam, but Alright. Oliver Tatham and his sister Rebecca visited the grounds of Coombe Abbey for the Illuminate Light Trail before Christmas of last year with their granddad Eric. Now, Mr. Tatham was like, I'm gonna tell all my, young ones to look out for ghosts while they're walking the trail, just for funsies. Well, Oliver took the challenge seriously. He carefully checked out each window of the building. Suddenly, something unusual caught his eye. In one of the first floor windows, Oliver saw a woman standing very still. He said she looked as though she was wearing Victorian-style clothes with a white cap and apron over a black dress. Oliver said, when I saw this strange figure looking out of the window, staring at the garden, I took a photo on my mom's phone, which I was using to take pictures of the lights. I zoomed in as far as I could, and she was much clearer to my eye than in the photo. Oliver then called over his mom and his sister to look at it, and as he was doing so, the figure didn't move, but then she just suddenly disappeared. So, we've got Oliver and his granddad, and they researched Coombe Abbey ghosts when they got home, and they came across the sad story of Matilda, a former maid at the Abbey when it was home to the Craven family. Now, it's not the first time that it's been claimed that Matilda has been captured on camera. Investigators who visited in 2018 claimed to have seen a number of apparitions, including their very own image of Matilda. Now we just gotta wait on that video footage. And finally for today, producers of British ghost hunter show Most Haunted have spent 17 years, if not more, trying to capture footage of a proper, real specter. And back in 2017, they succeeded. Members of the TV crew were reduced to fearful tears after they spotted and managed to get on camera a transparent, ghostly figure ascending some stairs at an abandoned 17th century mansion in Yorkshire. The spine-tingling clip shows what appears to be a paranormal figure walking very slowly down a dark corridor at Wentworth House in South Yorkshire. So the TV show was at the mansion investigating reports of a ghostly presence inside the stable block, following dozens of unexplained sightings. Investigators Carl Beatty and Stuart Torvell managed to record the figure before chasing it down the hallway as it disappeared from view. Host Yvette Fielding was left sobbing after watching the clip and said the video was the show's most groundbreaking footage to date. She said, in the 17 years we've been doing Most Haunted, we've always wanted to capture a ghost on camera. We've got so many different kinds of phenomena, objects moving on their own, voices, but this is the first time that we've caught a man walking in what appears to be slow motion up the stairs. She said it was only when we edited it that I saw it and I burst into tears. How about we kick off today with a flick that technically already has a couple of bands on its record, the Poughkeepsie Tapes. For about a decade, this movie was the stuff of legend, the type of thing that's only found in a creepypasta. If you believe the rumors, this documentary about a serial killer terrorizing Poughkeepsie, New York, used real footage of that man attacking, harming, and killing his victims. Obviously that isn't the case since it's a completely fictional film about a made-up serial killer and not a snuff flick, but that hasn't kept the film from holding on to its true story legacy. So the movie opens with the discovery of the tapes themselves. After uncovering 10 bodies in a residential backyard, the police unearthed something far more menacing: over 800 tapes from a killer, each detailing his heinous exploits. So composed of this found footage, combined with interviews with experts and one victim's testimony, the movie pieces together the story of the Water Street Butcher. Now this flick is difficult to stomach and is best accompanied by a lot of trigger warnings. The film's eerie mimicry of early 2000s true crime shows like Forensic Files and Unsolved Mysteries is quite convincing, making it difficult not to get sucked into the reality of it all. Even today, people are tricked into believing that the footage from the tapes is, well, real, despite the red flags pointing to the contrary. This claim to reality is a constant source of controversy for the film, as is its deeply upsetting content. But the thing that stands out most in complaints is that it wasn't the movie people preemptively decided it should be. So back in the day, it premiered at the 2007 Tribeca Film Festival, where it was quickly snatched up by MGM for distribution. Now they marketed the movie heavily, but it would all prove a huge waste of money when the film mysteriously vanished from the studio's 2008 release schedule. Though the movie could be found through less than legal means, it didn't get a wide release until it hit video on demand in 2014. But then MGM was like, we want to make more money. So then they pulled it again for a never-to-be-seen theatrical release. Finally, in 2017, Shout Factory released the movie on DVD and Blu-ray, which is more proof of the value of physical media. So for many of those early viewers, the fun of the mystery was, well, is the footage real? Why did MGM pull it? Was it banned for being too extreme? This and a plethora of other questions swirled around online forums in the time from those early trailers to the movie's eventual home release. What can I say? The killer's tapes are graphic, just not in the way that you would expect. Most of the violence is off-screen, implied or described but not shown outright, forcing the audience to imagine the most disturbing moments. Spoiler alert, in what's been called the scariest scene in the movie, the killer, posing as a police officer, picks up a hitchhiking woman looking for a ride to the nearest gas station. And when he drives past the station, the woman's face falls into an expression of absolute dread as she realizes this isn't a police officer. And over the next 6 minutes, the audience is forced to watch as she hopelessly pleads for her life. If that doesn't terrify you, damn. I wish. Next up, we've got Capture, Kill, Release. Honestly, the title reminds me of playing Love, Marry, Kill when I was younger, but this isn't as silly. So Jen and Farhang are a seemingly happy married couple living in a suburban area in a nice sized home. They appear to love each other, they love their lives together, but then Jen begins to talk about their plan to off somebody. They've already decided to do it, and they've got they're gonna film the whole thing. So in this movie, we watch them meticulously decide what weapons we're gonna use. How are we gonna resize our bathroom for a dead body? Home Rentals 101, everybody. And also they gotta pick their victim. So barring films like August Underground, apparently this is as close to a snuff film as you can get without watching the real thing. So, cross that off the bucket list, I guess. The camera zooms in on saws hacking through arms, guts piling up in the tub, and it's an unflinching portrayal of the violence from the perspective of the killers. The viewer is placed in the subject position of both characters, seeing through their eyes and therefore implicating the viewer in the atrocities, which makes the viewing experience that much more uncomfortable on top of seeing red fluids drain out of the tub. Unsettling and uncomfortable, this movie is worth sitting through for the performances alone. Oh, and by the way, we entered this film after the duo have already made and committed to their plan. But as they film each other, the dynamic becomes clear. This isn't just a single psychopath filming his exploits. These are two people with complicated feelings trying to navigate love in the face of the unimaginable. These guys aren't just married, they depend on each other. They are each other's anchors to the point of codependency. The first-person perspective allows us to better understand their minds as they become more and more embroiled in the plan. This shocking found footage film isn't just about that shock factor though, it's about the love and how we come to depend on somebody in a relationship. Sure, in reality, if your partner asked you to kill somebody, you'd be like, alright, I'm out. But this, entertains the idea that maybe you'd want to stay, maybe you'd help. After all, love makes us do crazy things, and because of that mindset alone, that's why I'd consider this a dangerous movie. Here's a movie that's less about jump scare effect, more of a lingering sadness situation. More simply put, Lake Mungo is a movie about dread. This 2008 Australian horror film is pegged to the overall concept of dread, that lingering sense of inevitable but unknowable doom that hangs over our heads. To quote journalist Vinnie Mancuso, the experience isn't exactly pleasant, but it is essential to have your rear end absolutely handed to you by a horror movie from time to time. This is the only feature filmmaking effort to date by writer and director Joel Anderson, and this is a ghost story. It's built from grief, one that's immediately recognizable to anybody who's ever lost somebody or briefly lost themselves. It's devastating, it's terrifying, and I think every single person who loves horror with a pulse should watch it at least once, and then immediately call their loved ones. So the first stories you hear in the movie are Alice is Missing, which is both the literal driving force of the story and a heart-wrenching hint at its underlying themes. Told in a faux documentary format, the film tells the story of Alice Palmer, a girl of legal driving age who drowned at a dam in a small town in Australia. So in the aftermath, strange occurrences have the rest of the Palmer family believing in ghosts, the supernatural, kind of the supernatural ones, but also the lingering regrets of a life cut short. The Palmers admit that they never really knew their daughter, so Mother June admits she always struggled to connect with Alice, and there's some secrets are revealed to the point that the girl struggled to feel alive, even before her death. The Palmer's search for closure leads them to the actual Lake Mungo, to a cell phone buried by Alice on a school trip, and the footage she took weeks before her death. The footage has all the washed out graininess of a 2008 flip phone, but that's not quite what makes it feel otherworldly. So as Alice stumbles through the dark, the camera freewheels wildly. You feel untethered from time or location until you finally focus on something approaching from the darkness. Slowly, very slowly. And it's not until it's inches from the frame does the film freeze and tell you what you're seeing. Alice's own bloated, decomposing corpse somehow stumbling out of her future. So there's a couple of reasons why this moment is so effective, and the first being that it's so goddamn scary. Just masterful service-level execution of gluing the audience in place, focusing on a single point, and then just walloping you over the head with an unexplainable image. But the ending of Lake Mungo is also devastating because of what it means. Or more accurately, because it lacks any concrete explanation for those of us left alive. Throughout the many twists and turns, the Palmer family is just searching for answers, because that's what you do when somebody dies. Hey, if you've ever suffered from anxiety or depression, you know what it's like to feel outside your body. To find you're drifting through life like a phantom. Alright folks, next up we have a movie that's so heinous, I'm not even supposed to be talking about it. I can't even say its title, but let's just call it the people-eating mass extinction event of the 1930s and 40s. This flick from director Ruggero Deodato wasn't his first movie about people eating, but definitely the one that got the most flack from the media. So this director's been making films since the 1960s, and he's always had a trademark style. Flashy, grimy pictures with a hardened edge and plenty of schmeksh and violence. He was one of the many Italian directors who facilitated the people-eating boom of the late 70s and had already made one such film, The Last C-Word World, before he got around to this one. So despite his sensationalist style, he had already proven himself not only a very competent director, but one with depth and ideas worthy of cinematic examination. So this is the story of a professor journeying to the Amazon to discover what happened to a film crew since they're all kind of missing. Lots of brave young Americans, and you realize that this characterization couldn't have been further from the truth. From the offset, the movie looks at how the mass media portrays its fellow Americans, the marginalization of those outside the land of the free, and what it means to be civilized. So the young filmmakers are immediately positioned by the media as victims of local savagery. And when anthropologist Dr. Mungo is sent to find them, it's only through his embracing of the local people that he comes across the lost film reels that will piece the puzzle together. Broadcasting executives back in New York are foaming at the mouth at the prospect of a new documentary, even more sensational than what had been promised to them. And they're so focused on that sensation and the viewing figures that the sizzle reel they show includes such antics as the gang forcibly amputating the leg of their guide literal seconds after he suffers a snake bite. And there's not a lot more I can talk about when it comes to the plot of this one. So as is the case with many old school exploitation flicks, the reels were seized on the grounds of obscenity. But then something crazy happened. Those same reels became evidence in criminal proceedings. And this wasn't just a plain old, too devious for public consumption theatrical release. Folks thought this was a snuff film, and the weirdos who made it were apparently so brazen in their criminality as to throw an official premiere for it. So the director was brought up on killing charges, and was forced to bring his actors in for interviews to prove that they were still alive. He then demonstrated how they performed some of the special effects in the film. Eventually those charges were dismissed, and also perhaps slightly more in keeping with Italy's progressive artistic reputation, the courts eventually overturned the movie's ban several years later. But by this point, the director and several of his associates had suffered considerable legal troubles, and countries around the world were banning this flick, or at the very least censoring it heavily. Also, before I move on, this film isn't entirely innocent. Although 6 animal deaths appear on screen, several animals were killed for the production, as a scene depicting the monkey's death was done twice, resulting in the death of 2 monkeys. So this film should be still banned for that reason alone, in my opinion. Alrighty everybody, we're gonna end today with a short but unsweet entry, The Taking of Deborah Logan. Mia Hu records the daily lives of Deborah Logan, a woman with Alzheimer's, as a part of her thesis. And as Deborah's behavior becomes increasingly bizarre and violent, it becomes apparent that there's more at work than the ravages of an incurable disease. Chock full of horrific imagery and effective scares, this film was a quietly shelved one that saw a second life on Netflix where it became a cult favorite. Gotta love movies that have already been knocked down for being shown a couple of times. How about we kick off today with a demonic piñata shop? I know, sounds very Five Nights at Freddy's. Bear with me here. Mario Landa, the owner of said party shop, was terrorized by a demon after it became attached to a particular one in his store. At first, the haunted piñata would be on the floor in the morning when Mario arrived to open the shop, and then workers started finding it in other places. So the shop was outfitted with security cameras to solve the mystery. Late one night, the cameras captured a bizarre clown face with scraggly hair and dark eyes, big dark ones, rising from a pile of piñatas. Another night, a piñata was captured as it spun out of control. Something demonic was inhabiting the store. Now, in one of the clips, you can see what appears to be a ghost, or the presence of a being, that throws a piñata, like just chucks it. Now, this footage was originally uploaded to Facebook, and then the very popular Travel Channel show, Paranormal Caught on Camera, decided it needed to be talked about more and featured it. And I promise you, this won't be the only story from that show that I talk about today. Next up, we have footage from 2020. Okay, before anybody panics, I'm talking about the American news magazine that's been broadcasted on TV since June of like 1978. Not the awful year. Now, if we're talking years, on April 5th of 1991, the show featured a segment that showed an actual Roman Catholic ritual of casting out demons. Videotaped at a nun's home in suburban Palm Beach County, the segment shows an affected girl, referred to only as Gina, as she thrashes under the effect of ancient prayers. What's happening? Well, she's sprinkled with holy water, there's a cross being pressed to her head, and what's she doing? Well, retching, writhing, yowling, baring teeth. Get out of here. Me not want to leave. She's shrieking all of that at the priest, as one hand snaps the gauze bonds tying her to the chair. If the exorcism team hadn't tied Gina down, she might have levitated to the ceiling. Now, at the time, the March 25th issue of US News and World Report carried no fewer than 5 articles on hell and the devil, citing a poll that 6 out of 10 Americans believed in the netherworld, which is 2% more than in the church heyday of the 1950s. Another poll released in August of the same year said 55% of Americans believe in the devil, 49% in demonic possession. Most Catholic leaders say possession is rare, with Reverend Kenneth Doyle, communications director for the National Conference of Catholic Bishops, stating he's only heard of a handful of exorcisms in the last 40 years. But I think that's just a PR statement. Here's the thing, when churchmen do perform an exorcism, they don't want to talk about it. The main exorcist in any report is only known as Father A, and his face obscured. Sister Lois Schaefer and the Reverend Walton Dockrell of St. Rita Parish near West Palm Beach, who took part in the exorcism that we have the video of today, said through a secretary, yeah, no comment. Now, Palm Beach Bishop J. Keith Simmons, who permitted the taping, issued only like a 4-paragraph statement saying the devil really exists. He is powerful and actively at work in the world today, as through the centuries, which echoes Cardinal John O'Connor of New York. Now, it was O'Connor's remark that there can be no question about the reality of the devil that initially drew the interest of the TV show, especially after the church got 75 requests from around the country to investigate possible cases of possession. Who got that sucker of a job? Reverend James Labar, a specialist in the occult, who looked into some of the initial claims and was like, Gina, yeah, you're being tormented by demons. According to the report, she experienced psychotic episodes, visions of demons and dead people. Her mom tried everything. She brought her to hospital, she brought her to specialists. Didn't do anything. Now, at the footage, the priests say the girl was controlled by 10 evil spirits. They meet her violent reactions by following the prayers and gestures of that rite. This whole ordeal to try and banish the demons? 6 hours, which apparently isn't uncommon for exorcism lengths. Now, before the procedure even took place, Father A mentioned how it's a terrifying experience. He could die tomorrow, or be attacked and taken over. Evil spirits like to take their sweet time leaving a body, and not without a fight, and that leaves everybody involved drained, exhausted, and not doing so well in the health department. Also quoted is Dr. Warren Schlanger of the Miami hospital, where Gina was treated before and after the exorcism, and he's like, yeah, she got better afterwards. Well, after the exorcism, but she was still pretty weak. Father A, he wasn't doing so hot afterwards. He believes the devil is disturbing his sleep because it wants to weaken and destroy him, which he just considers that the price he has to pay as the church's point man against demons. Now, the footage that we have today, the church actually tried taking it down because they don't want it to be public anymore. But don't worry, folks, I got you. I think it's time for me to talk about my favorite creepy demonic doll, Annabelle. So back when I was in high school, I actually got to portray her, local haunted house, whole thing. What we're talking about today, the folks over at the Overnight YouTube channel were granted permission to stay overnight in Ed and Lorraine Warren's museum, which is unheard of. But thankfully for us, they captured their experience on a variety of recording devices, making a very long series going in depth that I totally recommend watching. But if you don't feel like spending a couple of hours doing so, don't worry, that's what I'm here for. So one thing I'd like to point out is how Annabelle decided to mess around on camera. I think if we're looking at timestamps, it was 58:29. Her eyes are pretty small, and they move a little bit, which she's a rag doll, that's not supposed to happen. But then at 58:52, when the camera is panned back to her, her eyes are back to normal, and like double the size in comparison to the first time slot. Now, when user Mason8363 mentioned this in the comment section, I thought it had to be like a trick of the light or something, so I went back and I took some screenshots on my phone. And what do you know, I didn't need them. I could tell clear as day that Annabelle's eyes had grown. And once again, folks, that's not supposed to happen. Now, if you're like, okay, who's Annabelle? What's going on with this? Why is she demonic? Don't worry. I know the story off by heart pretty much. The real story, that is, not the Hollywood movie, which we love. Donna and Angie were student nurses, good friends, sat at a room together while in school, and for Donna's 28th birthday, her mom gifted her a very large Raggedy Ann doll. And she was thrilled, which, like, so would I be. Give me dolls any day. Soon after adopting the precious doll, Donna started to notice some weird behavior and weirdness going on in the apartment. She would leave Annabelle in her bed every morning behind her locked bedroom door, seating her the same way with her arms and legs crossed, and would come home at night to Annabelle having moved rooms and in positions that weren't possible. She's described a few instances of the doll kneeling, and once again, stuffed dolls can't kneel. They don't have the joints for that. Donna and Angie then started finding notes left throughout the apartment written on parchment paper and red pen, which they didn't own parchment paper or red pens. When Donna's boyfriend Lou started criticizing the doll, because guys, dolls, stereotypes, unexplainable handprints and scratches began appearing on his body. And that's when the girls were like, okay, we need a priest. And then the priest brought in the Warrens. Before that, they had brought in a medium who had told them that there was a ghost attached to the doll, Annabelle Higgins. Turns out that was false. Ed came in and was like, that's a demon. So he got the doll out, calmed it down, brought it home. Not without its trials and tribulations, though. Annabelle's gotten up to some stuff over the years. And ever since, she's been one of the many demonic items that live in the museum. I can't even imagine what kind of a hotbed that place is, because Ed and Lorraine had the common sense to keep demonic items from being released back into the world. But now that they've passed away, I can't say the same about their son-in-law, Tony Sparrow. He seems like he's doing anything for a quick buck and sensationalism, and that's not safe. So when you're a 911 dispatcher and things go weird, Who do you call? Because you can't call Ghostbusters and, well, you're the emergency services. This video comes from a dispatcher who was alone in her office and she heard some knocking. This comes from a dispatcher who was alone in the office one night when she heard some knocking, some other strange sounds, and she saw some really weird shadows. She recorded the activity with her phone over the course of like a week. One night, as she stared down the hallway, she saw a tall, dark figure leaning out of the break room and looking towards her. And as she screamed, it ducked into the room. The dispatcher slammed the door shut, called for police to check the building, and there was nobody there. So yes, this was another video that was showcased on Paranormal Caught on Camera, and it took me a while to validate this one. When I was watching it, I was like, okay, we got nothing. I was about to click off, and then I saw the mysterious figure in the doorway. And I was like, okay, maybe it's just a lighting trick. And then I realized, I'm like, oh no, this is not a lighting trick. This is not something anybody would want to fake. This is terrifying. Absolutely not. And finally, to end off today, we're consulting some experts who explored an abandoned nursing home. The spine-tingling 2-minute clip begins innocently enough with the two adventurers who go by the name Finders Beepers History Seekers here on YouTube, and they were exploring the really icky interior of a dilapidated building. You know, like any regular ghost hunting show. And as they were standing in the laundry room, their equipment picked up some stuff that sounded like a young girl answering their questions. And as they walked through a stairwell, one of the men spotted something from the corner of his eye on the landing above them. Now the entity walked away and the guys thought it was just somebody else in the building. And they were like, okay, whatever. They didn't think it was anything spectral. They thought it was just like a homeless person, another explorer. Then, they went up and investigated for themselves. And they realized the only thing in the direction in which the figure moved through was a wall with a hole too tiny to escape through. It also led to a steep drop-off from the top floor of the freaky facility. So there was no way anybody could have gotten back across the top of the stairs without these two guys capturing it on camera. And the footage shows there was nowhere for anybody to go. Which, terrifying. Because I saw it and I was like, okay, yeah, it's like a homeless guy. And then it's very much not. Dubbed the nursing home from hell, this building used to house dozens of people before it was forced to close in 2015 for employing criminals, keeping patients in bad conditions, you name it. Let's start off today with a cryptid and work our way up to the big guys. So a YouTuber uploaded a video that was apparently filmed on September 26th or 27th of 2013 in the woods around Montreal, Quebec, Canada. In the video, an unidentified man films himself walking through the forest at night. Now, we're not sure why he does that, and also, the original video has since been taken down, which might have had context. I'm pretty sure he's looking for something. Now it's just part of these compilations. Eventually, he comes upon something that frightens him, and after exclaiming, oh, can't say that word, oh god, he immediately turns and begins running in the other direction. Given how dark the footage is, it's not entirely clear what he saw until you slow down the video and you zoom in. Further ahead on the trail, something appears to peek out briefly from a tree before returning to its original position behind said tree. The creature does not appear to be any type of known animal. Rather, it's pale, fish-faced, and with seemingly large eyes. It looks almost like a gray alien type. Look, this video is the real deal, and also if you think about it, it's got a very authentic feel to it. The reaction upon seeing the creature, like, this guy's genuinely startled. He's not rehearsed. I can tell I'm an actor. Now, one of my first thoughts when I saw this footage was like, oh, this cryptid, it's a hide behind, seeing as it ducks really fast. It's a nocturnal critter from American folklore that preys upon humans that wander the woods. It was blamed for the disappearances of early loggers when they failed to return to camp, and as the name suggests, it's able to conceal itself. When you look directly at it, it hides, ducks away. Look, it makes sense to me. You let me know in the comments what you think. As promised, it's UFO time. Alright, I'll be the first to admit we don't know as much about this footage as some of the other entries today, so bear with me. I found this video on Reddit, and while the site does tend to be the Wild West for finding credible information, I think my nonsense filter is pretty decent. So a while ago, user CuriousAD5774 said, don't got much to say about this video, other than when my dad originally sent it to me. I felt like it had to be a UFO, and there's nothing else that seemed to explain it. Now, Canada is notorious for sightings. I've seen a couple of them, and look, this video was taken way before drones were being used regularly. He thinks it's about 10 years old. So let's break down the video together, shall we? While watching the video, you can see a number of different orbs in a dark sky, and the way they move cannot be explained by science. Now, another commenter, Death Perception, has an idea of what it could be. He's like, yeah, this is pretty good footage, it's dark, it's an old video, but if we're all assuming it's real, pretty sure it is, then it's clearly the typical black triangle that's been seen since at least the 90s. Now somebody else, only capital 5393, was able to relate to the footage, saying it was exactly what their brother and mother described back in the 90s. They were driving in New Hampshire in the wee hours of the morning, going south, and this UFO came and followed them for a while on the highway. There was nobody else around, and it was just like hanging out. Whee! Here we go. The lights are exactly what they described though, how they kind of spin in a circle around the center light. And the commenter had never seen anything like they described until that moment. Now, he would have loved to have sent it to the mother and brother, but sadly they passed away. And if we want to talk about how credible the mom was as a witness, she was an Air Force flight nurse during Vietnam. If she hadn't seen it, come on. She had heard rumors about UFOs being real, by the way, and that made her pretty interested in the subject. She actually became like a UFOologist. She joined a lot of organizations, and at one meeting, she sat at the same table with Betty Hill. Time to fulfill another promise, and that's evidence of Bigfoot. Paul Freeman claims that while working as a watershed patroller for the US Forest Service back in 1982, he encountered a Sasquatch, or Bigfoot, near Walla Walla, Washington. Now, him being a whistleblower and talking about knowing about Bigfoot brought him a lot of criticism and disrupted his family's life, causing him to quit the job and relocate. But he returned to the area in 1984 and devoted the rest of his life to a search for evidence. He collected hair, photographs, and a wide variety of casts of footprints and other body parts. Now in 1992 he followed a series of tracks near Deduct Creek and got a close-up video. I'm also pretty sure some of the footage is from 1994, which was when he captured video near the Blue Mountains region of northeastern Oregon. Now the recordings are considered authentic by quite a few Bigfoot investigators, but sadly for us, a lot of the resolution is too low to be considered conclusive. But like, I'm pretty sure these videos hold credibility. Could they have been hoaxed? Sure. But I have too many doubts for it to be a fake. And also, the videos offer the possibility that these creatures have supernatural abilities. Now, if you're asking, yo, Alexa, who's this Paul Freeman guy? And like, why do you think these videos are so credible? Allow me. He was an American Bigfoot hunter, and he discovered a lot of tracks showing dermal ridges. And the plaster casts he made were convincing enough to be considered critical pieces of evidence by anthropologists. Now, if we're talking about which anthropologists, Jeff Meldrum of Idaho State University and Grover Krantz of Washington State University, they put a lot of time and resources into studying them. And it's hard to get resources to study things that aren't credible. Now, sadly, Paul passed away in 2003, but he was adamant until the day he died that what he saw was real proof that Bigfoot is out there. On Saturday, March 11th of last year, William Church, a professional truck driver who regularly drove on Arizona State Route 87, noticed a bright glare in his dash cam, and he thinks the flashing figure is a ghost. Now, he's described himself as someone who has seen a lot of weird stuff during his travels, but he's been able to make sense or explain away everything, except for this video. The specter was spotted at around 2:30 in the morning while William drove past the highway's 200-mile marker, which is located between Phoenix and Payson, Arizona. And since it was that very ungodly hour, there was nobody on the road, and he captured something weird on his Nextcar dash cam, which I guess is a leading dash cam brand. And thankfully, we've got the footage. Granted, it's only 6 seconds long, so pay attention now. And now that we're back, I shall continue. He is positive the translucent figure y'all just saw looks like a person standing in the roadway, saying like he can see the lines through the legs that make up the figure. So if we want to give a little context on the area, Arizona State Route 87 is a north to south highway that was constructed in 1927 and measures approximately 272.66 miles. The north end travels to State Route 264 near Second Mesa, a census designated place in Arizona, while the south end travels to Interstate 10 near Picacho, an unincorporated community and another census designated place. Now, a lot of fatal accidents have happened on this 96-year-old highway, which has reportedly led some locals to believe that the road could be haunted. Look, a recent fatal car crash happened on State 87 near milepost 201 in February of last year, and last I checked, the exact cause of the crash is unknown. The two-person collision resulted in the death of one person near Bush Highway, which is east of Fountain Hills, and Valley Chevy dealers in Phoenix named State Route 87 one of Arizona's most dangerous roads. So, if you watch this video that we're talking about today, yeah, there's a lot of supernatural activity on these highways. Because why? Well, people die, spirits don't move on. And look, I'm speaking as somebody who drives, has a license. I don't want to see any ghosts when I'm driving tonight. No thank you. And how about we end today with some 2016 killer clown footage? Now, I'm friends with a lot of creepy clowns. I've been one myself. But 2016 was a rough year to be a clown. The 2016 clown sighting incidents were reported in the United States, Canada, Australia, and a lot of other countries and territories in August of that year. They were first reported in Green Bay, Wisconsin, in what turned out to be a marketing stunt for a horror film, but the phenomenon later spread to many other cities in the US. And by mid-October, clown sightings and attacks have been reported in nearly all of the US states, 9 out of 13 provinces and territories of Canada, and 18 other countries. Alright. Watch the video now before I start fuming over clown rights, and we can break it down after. So this footage shows the masked monster emerging from a motorway underpass and standing in the middle of the road, waving very creepily at the stopped car. Now when the figure starts walking towards the vehicle, the male driver tries to reverse away, but then the crazed clown makes a sudden dash towards the family in the car. And these guys were just trying to come home from like a nice dinner out. After backing up far enough, the panicked driver puts his foot down and speeds towards the clown, who jumps out of the road a split second before being mowed down by the car. Now, the driver who put his foot down and sped towards the clown, it's terrifying. In the original Facebook post, the wife of the driver wrote that the incident took place at Grange Mill Lane, and they were confronted by this person coming out from the underpath tunnel and charging at them. I don't know what to make of it. Like, as much as I love a good killer clown, such as one of my besties, Buttons, there's a reason they only exist in controlled fictional situations. And like this, if I ever saw a killer clown when I'm driving, absolutely not. In 5th place, we have an exorcism filmed through a peephole. So it's no secret that exorcisms are still a practice done today, but the Catholic Church really likes pretending that they don't because of the negativity around it. Technically speaking, the Catholic Church authorizes the use of exorcism for those who are believed to be the victims of demonic possession. Specifically, in Roman Catholicism, which is what I grew up with, exorcism is a sacramental but not a sacrament, so unlike baptism, confirmation, first communion, or confession. Unlike a sacrament, exorcisms depend on 2 elements: authorization from valid and legitimate church authorities and the faith of the exorcist. The church will ask publicly and authoritatively in the name of Jesus Christ that a person or object be protected against the power of the evil one and withdrawn from his dominion. Now, the rite of exorcism was revised in January of 1999, making it a lot less Latin, and assumes that, possessed persons retain their free will, although the demon may hold control over their physical body. It involves prayers, blessings, and invocations with the use of the document of exorcisms and certain supplications. Typically, the individual will be restrained and the priest will perform a ritual of prayers to remove the evil spirits. Solemn exorcisms, according to the canon law of the church, can be exercised only by an ordained priest or higher, with the express permission of the local bishop, and only after a careful medical examination to exclude the possibility of mental illness. The Catholic Church has between 500 to 600 official exorcists, with the vast majority operating in Latin America and Eastern Europe. Now that we're all clear on the formal definition of exorcisms, time to dive into this lovely 2014 video. The ritual was captured on camera by a man who heard the shrieks of the woman inside the sanctuary and filmed it through the peephole of a door. The incident occurred at the Assumption of the Virgin Mary Church in Vranov, Najijai, in February of 2014. The church's priest, Marek Dunda, confirmed the video is real, but only said that if something is filmed through a keyhole, there's nothing more to say about it. Which is a dodging the question kind of answer if I've ever heard one. He told the newspaper he was talking to that he carries a mandate from his bishop to perform exorcisms, and also said that the group were asking God to protect and to liberate the person, including using a Latin prayer asking for help, and of course it helps. Pardon me. I'm no expert on exorcism rituals yet, but if you have to state that something of course helps, in my personal experience, it's a smidge sketchy. It's very hard to tell what is happening in the video, but it appears that at least 2 people surround the woman, who can be heard screaming in agony with momentary pauses in between for the duration of the, just under 2-minute long video. Daniel Trokta, who, shot the video after hearing the screams, warns people in the description to watch the chilling footage while wearing headphones, which is what I did. When asked about the condition of the woman in the video, the priest said any details about her or her state were private, and while I'm glad the church is respecting her privacy, I hope that the poor woman has been cured and healed. As much as I joke about it, demonic possession is no pleasant or laughing matter. In 4th place, we have footage from 2020. Okay, before anyone out there panics, I'm talking about the American news magazine that's been, broadcasted on TV since June of 1978. Not the awful year in recent history that we're not going to talk about, because that was awful. On April 5th of 1991, the show featured a segment that showed an actual Roman Catholic ritual of casting out demons, videotaped at a nun's home in suburban Palm Beach County. The segment shows the affected girl, referred to only as Gina, as she thrashes under the effect of ancient prayers, is sprinkled with holy water, and, has a cross being pressed to her head. Common stuff. The girl retches, writhes, yowls, and bares her teeth. She says, "Get out of here! Me not wanna leave!" shrieking all this at the priest, as one hand snaps the gauze bonds tying her to the chair. By the way, apparently if the exorcism team hadn't tied her down, she might have levitated to the ceiling. How very Willy Wonka. At the time, the March 25th issue of U.S. News and World Report carried no fewer than 5 articles on hell and the devil, citing a poll that 6 out of 10 Americans believed in the netherworld, which is 2% more than in the church heyday of the 1950s. Another poll, released in August of the same year, said 55% of Americans believe in the devil and 49% in demonic possession. I'd love to see those results today, but I couldn't find them sadly. Most Catholic leaders say possession is rare, with Reverend Kenneth Doyle, Communications Director for the National Conference of Catholic Bishops, stating he's only heard of about a handful of exorcisms in the last 40 years, but I feel like that's just a PR statement. Here's the thing. When churchmen do perform an exorcism, they almost never talk about it. The main exorcist in this entire report is known only as Father A, and his face is kind of obscure. Sister Lois Schaefer and the Reverend Walton Dockerell of St. Rita Parish near West Palm Beach, who took part in the exorcism, said through a secretary that, no comment. Palm Beach Bishop J. Keith Simons, who permitted the taping, issued only a 4-paragraph statement, saying that the devil really exists, he is powerful and actively at work in the world today, as through the centuries, which echoes what Cardinal John O'Connor of New York said. Now, it was O'Connor's remark that there can be no question about the reality of the devil that initially drew the interest of 2020, especially after the church got about 75 requests from around the country to investigate possible cases of possession. That job fell to the Reverend James LaBar, a specialist in the occult, who looked into some of the initial claims and decided that Gina in South Florida was genuinely being tormented by demons. According to the report, she experienced psychotic episodes, plus visions of demons and dead persons. Oh, I don't wish that on anybody. Her mother says she tried visits to a spiritist and to various hospitals, and in the footage, the priests say the girl is controlled by 10 evil spirits. They meet her violent reactions by following the prayers and the gestures of the rite. The ordeal took about 6 hours, and this isn't really uncommon for exorcism lengths. Before the procedure even took place, Father A mentioned how it's a terrifying experience at times, and that he, could die tomorrow, or be attacked and taken over. Evil spirits like to take their time leaving a body, and not without a fight, and that leaves all of the parties involved extremely drained and exhausted, and vulnerable. Also quoted is Dr. Warren Schlonger of Miami Children's Hospital, where Gina was treated before and after the exorcism, and he did note that her condition improved afterwards. Father A, though, is still troubled. He believes the devil is disturbing his sleep, attempting to weaken and destroy him. He counts that as the price he must pay as a church point man against demons. Now, I know, someone's about to ask, but Alexa, didn't you say you'd be talking about hidden footage? The church tried taking this footage down from the internet because they didn't want it to be public anymore, but thankfully they haven't succeeded. In third place, we have the director of The Exorcist. Now, unlike the last 2 mentions, this footage is missing and locked up, never to be seen. The director of The Exorcist has mentioned in interviews that he was allowed to film a real exorcism at the Vatican, of all places. William Friedkin said he was taken aback at how close the ceremony was to the exorcism depicted in his 1973 film. He said that he doesn't think he will ever be the same after seeing this astonishing thing. Now, he says he intended to shoot The Exorcist as a horror film, but the more he learned it, the more it became a supernatural tale instead. So while the book this was all based on a 1949 case of an American teenager called Roland, Friedkin said the Catholic Archdiocese of Washington, D.C. asked him to change the gender so as to, not draw attention to the young man. But in reality, the director said that it was a young man of 14 and not a gal who was allegedly possessed. Now, the Vatican did not immediately respond to a request for comment, and still has not as of this day. The church asking someone to hide something and then not commenting on it. I'd say I'm shocked, but I made a promise to myself to never lie on here, and I'm not about to start doing that today. Friedkin said he believed the boy was genuinely possessed, convinced that there was no other explanation. He read the diaries of not only the priest involved in the exorcism, but the doctors, the nurses, and the patients at Alexian Brothers Hospital in St. Louis, where this original case was carried out. He's also stated that he's not Catholic, doesn't go to church, or belong to a church or a synagogue. Make of that what you will. In second place, we have the exorcism of a Satanic Queen. This tale in particular comes from Dr. Richard Gallagher, who is an Ivy League educated, board-certified psychiatrist, and who performed a mental health evaluation on our sad woman to make sure it wasn't, an instance of something that could be helped with modern medicine first and foremost. He described her as a middle-aged woman who wore flowing dark clothes and black eyeshadow, and while she was charming and engaging, she was also part of a satanic cult. This is where I swear I'm not part of a satanic cult, even though that visually fits my aesthetic. She called herself the queen of the cult, but Gallagher would refer to her as Julia, the pseudonym he gave her. The woman had approached her local priest and was convinced she was being attacked by a demon. The priest referred her to an exorcist who reached out to Gallagher for, a mental health evaluation. It was one of the first cases he took, and apparently it changed him. So he helped assemble an exorcism team that met Julia in the chapel of a house. He was adamant that objects would fly off shelves around her, and she somehow knew personal details about him, such as how his mother had died of ovarian cancer, and that the 2 cats in his house went berserk fighting each other the night before one of her sessions. sessions. She even found a way to reach him even when she wasn't with him. One night he was talking on the phone with Julia's priest when he says both men heard one of the demonic voices that came from Julia during her trances, even though she was nowhere near a phone and thousands of miles away. He and a team of exorcists paid her many visits, but eventually she called a halt to the sessions. She was too ambivalent and relished some of the abilities she displayed during her trances. About a year after she dropped out, Gallagher says that he heard Julia's voice on the phone again. This time though, she had called to tell him that she was passing of cancer, and he offered to try and help her with, a team of priests while she was still physically able, but her response was vague, and sadly she passed before he was able to help further. Now, while Gallagher has taped all footage of his work, he has been forbidden by the church to release any of it. Ergo, sorry folks, I got nothing. In first place, we have Ed and Lorraine Warren exorcism footage. Me talking about Ed and Lorraine Warren? I know, a shocker. While the video is blurred on YouTube to protect the identity of the poor girl, I personally think it's up there as one of the most frightening things I've ever seen. At an hour and 20 minutes long, it depicts a Catholic bishop in Connecticut attempting to converse with a demonic entity that has possessed the body of an innocent young woman while her family restrains her. Ed and Lorraine were the ones to alert the church to the possession after meeting her during an audience chat session that was held at the conclusion of one of their public presentations. During portions of the exorcism, when prayer is done, you can hear the demon acting wildly, and it originally refuses to give its name, both of which are quite common in cases of demonic possession. Eventually we learn that there are 4 demons possessing our victim, with one of them identifying themselves as Robert, a name associated with the son of Satan. I'll let a snippet roll now, allowing you to hear the woman for yourself. This footage was unreleased until after the passing of Ed and Lorraine, and it's believed that they were told by the Catholic Church to specifically keep it under wraps, but their son-in-law doesn't have the same fear or respect for the church, depending on one's opinion.
Number 5 on this list is the alien baby. This is a clip of what looks like an alien child. We know how the government is with aliens and anything extraterrestrial, so it's clear why they wouldn't want the public looking at something like this too closely. I mean, they don't let anyone in on anything happening in any of their secret bases, so it makes sense they wouldn't want us watching a video like something like this. Let's show 30 seconds of this clip, and you guys comment down below what the heck this thing is.
Now, how are you feeling? You feeling okay? You feel well? Go and get you something? Want a glass of water? We're not really getting anywhere, are we, at the moment? Are you seeing something? Is there something you see over there?
So very clearly that is not a human child. Now it's possible that could be an animal of some kind, but I have no idea what type of animal looks like that. That's why, if I had to guess, we're looking at some type of alien creature. This is a really interesting find because it means that aliens might have children similar to how we have children. Obviously we don't know the process to how this baby came about, but the idea that aliens grow like we grow. That's important information because for a long time people have speculated on their reproductive process. To just assume that they grow like we grow would be ignorant on our part, but now this looks like some serious evidence. What I want to see though is a clip of this creature several years from now. What does this thing look like then? It doesn't look too threatening today, but you already know that it's going to turn into something deadly most likely. Number 4 on this list is the dinosaurs. This next clip was initially from Shortest Blockbusters, but was broken down by Chills on his channel. I'm gonna play you an excerpt of what he has to say right now.
Do you believe that some extraterrestrials are living among us? Then you really gotta see this scary video. The footage shows 2 dinosaur-looking creatures scurrying across a frozen river. They have spines that are heightened, long tails, and pointed heads. Otherwise, their bodies look more or less human. Are these dinosaurs extraterrestrials, humanoids?
And that is the big question, right guys? Aliens, dinosaurs, or humanoids? What the heck are they? He goes on in that video to talk about how he believed this was actually VFX, but some people in the comments weren't too sure. VFX could easily be the explanation, but it could also be used as an excuse. The government has chalked a lot of things up to VFX and CGI before, and some of that has turned out to be real, so why can't this? Aliens living among us or other creatures living among us has been talked about and rumored for a long time. We have had no definitive proof, but videos like this just keep getting released with no explanation. I wouldn't be surprised if in a few years' time some real proof finally surfaces confirming a lot of our suspicions about these creatures. Number 3 on this list is the river creature. This next video was released back in 2015 and shows a bunch of people wearing hazmat suits picking a strange looking creature out of a river. This was apparently captured in Poland, and there was no official report on this when it came out. So as we can see, there is a bunch of people with hazmat suits picking up this weird creature from the river. What is that creature, and why do they need to be wearing these hazmat suits for? So they hand it off to some other people in different colored hazmat suits and then walk to a place where presumably the person filming can't go. I also wouldn't be surprised if the person filming was already in a spot where they weren't allowed to be and just snuck in anyways. Maybe this is in some secret base of some kind where experiments are being performed. I mean, why else would they need hazmat suits? Definitely a very strange one there, guys. Comment down below if you have any idea what they were doing here and what that thing was. Number 2 on this list is the creepy mermaid. So I always thought that I would want to meet a mermaid, but if this is what they look like, then I definitely don't have any interest in that anymore. We're gonna see a clip from a video here that was posted back in 2018. It looks to be of a docking area somewhere and has an incredibly scary creature lying across the dock. So what the hell was that thing, guys? That is one messed up creature that is hanging around there. Maybe it got scared off by the camera and decided that it wanted to head back in the water after it spotted the person filming it. It had a tail kind of like a mermaid, but at the same time, there wasn't really anything human about this thing, so maybe it isn't connected to that at all. But if it isn't a mer person, then what sort of creature could this thing be, and why haven't we heard more about it? You have to imagine that if creatures like this are swimming around our waters, that the government, they'd be aware of this, but they haven't said anything about it at all. Who knows how many creepy things are in our oceans that we don't know about. And number 1 on this list is the creepy creature. The video that I'm going to show you was uploaded by Keenan Music to YouTube on May 7th, 2021. It's a very short clip, only 15 seconds long, of someone investigating Japan using Google Earth and discovering something super creepy and weird. An unexplained object is going to be flying in the sky over top of a Japanese city. Let's roll the clip now. That thing almost looks like a drone, but it also looks like it could be made from organic material. I also don't know of any drones that look like that are constructed by humans. Could this be something from another planet that made its way to Earth undetected and is scoping out our world? I think everything is on the table with something like this, and some investigation desperately needs to get done. Comment down below what you think this could be and why nothing official has been released on it yet.
Number 5, Annabelle. Well, it just would not be the Warrens without Annabelle. She's easily the most famous thing in their collection, and let's be real, she's probably one of the most famous dolls on the planet. You know, Barbie, Annabelle. Do you ever wonder if they ever thank her for all the good publicity she's given them? By now, I'm sure if you're watching this video, you know the story of Annabelle, the haunted doll that they kept captive, but I'll run it by you again in case you don't. It was given to a nursing student as a gift from her mother, and within days, things started getting scary. Notes would appear around the house scrawled in red liquid that read out terrifying messages like, "Help me." Allegedly lunged at the girl's boyfriend one night, and well, after a doll comes alive and lunges at you, you call some help, and then Ed and Lorraine were called in to exorcise the demon inside Annabelle. In the end, they keep her locked up very tight, surrounded by rosaries and holy water to ensure the demon inside can't harm anyone anymore, and they keep her locked up except when they wheel her out for publicity events and take her to conventions. While Annabelle has enjoyed quite the career as a movie star, the real Annabelle is locked away to keep the evil dormant. In this footage, we're treated to some up close and personal glamour shots of Annabelle in the flesh, or stuffing, I guess, locked tight in her cage. The footage comes from Tony Spera, the son-in-law of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who's gonna get mentioned a whole heck of a lot in this video. He takes us on a brief tour of the museum, getting a real up close to it. Even through a YouTube screen, you can feel some evil radiating off this doll. Now sadly, if you're a big Warren superfan and you want to go check out the museum, unfortunately it's closed right now, but they are hoping to reopen it. So one day Annabelle can get back to scaring her fans in person like she always has. When I said before that they take her out to conventions, that wasn't just me being snarky, it's real. She just recently was at the Warrens Paracon, the convention dedicated to supernatural hunters of the paranormal. You can line up, take a photo with Annabelle. I'm not sure if I'd take a selfie with her though. I don't know. It might look good on a Tinder profile, maybe. I'm not sure. And if you're looking for way more Ed and Lorraine content, true tales of terror, fake fibs of frauds, cryptids, ghosts, ghouls, goblins, aliens, pretty much anything scary under the sun and above it, well, you already know Top 5 Scary is the place for that. Make sure you stay subscribed. Please ring that little bell to the side so you get all of our videos when they upload. But do that at the end of this video, okay? Because I got 4 more pieces of Ed and Lorraine footage coming up for you right now, baby. Number 4, the museum tour. Now, if you wanted to go to the world's foremost collection of haunted relics and cursed objects, there's probably no storeroom full of curses more than the legendary collection of the Warrens' Haunted Museum of Souvenirs. Now, like I said just a second ago, the museum is currently closed as of the writing of this video, but they are trying to reopen soon. You know, cross your fingers. But in the meantime, you can take a digital tour, as this footage posted by the Warren's son-in-law, Tony Spera, shows Mr. Warren giving a guided tour of some of the more unique haunted artifacts resting in the Connecticut garage. Now the full video, definitely worth a watch if you're a big fan of the Warrens, since it's as close as you'll be able to get to walking around the museum these days. It's a full half-hour long of old Ed going into grand detail and recounting some stories about some of their more notable and famous cases. Shoutouts include the witch Hannah Cranna, an old Connecticut legend, or the Conjuring Mirror, which might sound like it has something to do with the movie, but very confusingly refers to a case where someone used this mirror in a ritual to try and summon a demon, a different demon. Ed talks briefly on some of their many cursed dolls and toys, such as a dinosaur from the Devil Made Me Do It case and film, and of course, no visit to the Warrens Museum would exclude Annabelle. She's the star attraction of the place, probably what keeps the lights on for so long. She's shown under a tight lock and key, and Ed goes over the history of how they brought her in, and he touches briefly on the containment protocol for her, how she has to always be locked up in a storage box behind glass, surrounded by rosary beads and doused in holy water, in an effort to keep the vile spirits tucked away. A small question: if a spirit is so powerful and malevolent that it's got this unspeakable ancient evil that attacks humans, wouldn't it be stronger than a pane of glass? Wouldn't it be stronger than a thin little thing of glass? I guess it's a doll, but I didn't think the solution to ultimate evil was to just put like a fence around it. That's what you do when like a dog is getting into stuff that you don't want them to get into. You just fence them out a bit in the backyard. Dogs, haunted dolls. Okay. Number 3, the Shadow Doll. And coming in at the number 3 spot for today is going to be this footage of the Shadow Doll. When you first enter the Warrens Haunted Museum, be it digitally or physically, one of the first things you'll see is this frightening little doll, affectionately dubbed the Shadow Doll. The Shadow Doll, that's fun to say. It's made of bird feathers and real human teeth. Lovely, those are some of my favorite ingredients. Now, it's currently owned by Tony Spera. He offers a bit of insight into the doll's history, saying it was originally acquired at an antique shop where it was sold with the owners of the shop drop completely oblivious to the doll's cursed energy. I don't buy that at all. What do you mean oblivious to the doll's cursed energy? Somebody came to you and sold you a doll made of bird feathers and human teeth, and your first instinct wasn't to douse the thing in holy water and kerosene for good measure? I know pawn shops ain't exactly the classiest place around, but you gotta have some standards, right? You gotta be able to recognize evil. There are very few dolls with human teeth that aren't evil. Sparrow claims the doll has an insidious curse inside it. Oh, wait, no, sorry, the Warrens weren't insidious. Anyway, the curse says that if you take a photograph of the doll, and when it develops, you write a curse that you'd like to inflict and then send it to your victim. The person who then opens the envelope and sees the photo of the doll will invite the curse into your home. The doll is also capable of some dream magic like Freddy Krueger and can even stop your heart while you're asleep if Mr. Warren is to be believed. And I know what you might be thinking. Did you just curse all of us by showing us this footage and pictures of the doll? No, of course not. I toss a salt circle around the camera before I film anything just to make sure no residual curses pass through the internet. I will say though, I have heard some pretty credible rumors that you're more susceptible to be cursed if you don't like, comment, and subscribe after watching a video, so I honestly would say on the safe side of things, you should do that. And on another side note, having done a lot of research on the pair of these two, I cannot stress how many haunted dolls and toys these people had. They had like the world's scariest Toys R Us in their backyard. Number 2, Scotland City under the city. Now, the Warrens' investigations didn't just take them on cross-country road trips in the United States. The Warrens visited a ghost in almost every state they claim, and then some. The Warrens' quest saw them traveling all over the globe in an effort to uncover truth and combat evil wherever it was found. In this recently uncovered footage, we can see a unique perspective from Lorraine digging underground in the secret vaults beneath Edinburgh. Under the ground is a series of large, cavernous vaults that were once used as a storage space for merchants, but when abandoned became home to Edinburgh's poorest who began to make it their dwellings. Probably a real nice space, you know, no daylight, musty air, thriving rodent population, but you know what? For the right price, I would probably go for it. It's probably better than most apartments in Toronto. Because of this, the vaults were the perfect place to conduct a little nefarious business that aren't quite fit to discuss on YouTube, but naughty stuff, just know that. It's believed that 2 of Edinburgh's most prolific criminals hid bodies here before taking them to medical schools to sell off. Having known this, with this context, it's absolutely no surprise that people believe the vaults to be haunted and claim that they feel watched or touched when walking through them. So, if there's something weird going on, the Warrens follow. This one's actually pretty cool footage, I gotta admit. It's first person, making you feel like you're exploring the subterranean depths with her. She's being guided by an old Scotsman who seems to know the tunnels pretty well, and I gotta say, if I ever take a tour of an underground vault, this is exactly who I would like to be taking me, and an old Scottish man. That's the most appropriate and trustworthy way to go ghost hunting. Now, they didn't find anything on this particular investigation, but while in there, Lorraine does claim that she can feel something communicating with her. Could it be spirits from long ago reaching out to Lorraine Warren, who claimed she had an extrasensory gift? Or maybe it was just kind of cold down there. And number 1, an exorcism. To some, the ultimate dream would be getting to ride up in the front seat with Warrens on one of their cases, getting to experience the paranormal firsthand under the tutelage of those who claim to have battled it their whole lives. It would be like if Obi-Wan Kenobi asked you if you want to go on an adventure with him. It'd be awesome. Well, hey, some people, they get to live their dreams every day. Like me, my dream was to stand in front of a camera and endlessly talk about ghosts and goblins, and it really is just the best. But a YouTuber by the name of Haley Reese got to live her dream when she met Tony Sparrow, the husband of Judy Warren, the daughter of the family, and Lorraine Warren, a bit before she passed away. She got blessed with a look into some never-before-seen footage of the pair of demonologists conducting fieldwork, namely an exorcism. Now, the person in the video has been blurred out to protect their safety, as, you know, it's one thing to be possessed by a demon, but doxing, whole other. We see Lorraine and Tony both fiercely conducting an exorcism, locked in spiritual warfare against a demonic force. We can hear Tony asking for the demon's name repeatedly, not because he's a friendly guy trying to make conversation, but because in order to properly drive a demon out of a host, you need to know its name. The name said, Beelzebub. Now, there is a little bit of a discrepancy whether or not Beelzebub and the devil are considered different entities, really depending on what book and depending on who you ask. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. Either way, it's very bad news to have inside of you. Worst part is apparently that wasn't even the only demon inside there. It was like a clown car of demons inside one guy. Not enough room. Luckily, the pair was able to get all of the demons outside of them and banish them away. Does anyone wonder, does it leave like a weird taste in your mouth after you've had demonic possession? I feel like there's an aftertaste, you know? I definitely feel like I would need to brush my teeth afterwards, I think. Number 5, the ghost. Coming up first today in our list of real, scary demonic footage from the beautiful country of India is this particularly threatening video that's been making the rounds online, which, if you believe some commenters, may have proof of ghostly life on it. Or unlife? Is that more correct? Anyway, let's roll the clip and let's take ourselves a look. This white-clad ghost was caught walking on the rooftops of Varanasi in the VDA colony located in the Badi Gabi area. Now in this video you can see a shadow walking on the rooftop of a house and that pale, ethereal, ghostly figure seemingly blowing in the breeze. Now when the video was shared, it went viral quickly on Twitter, causing a small panic amongst local residents who demanded that there was a formal investigation made by police. Do you guys not know? Have you guys not heard? Has this not reached you? That is not the team you're supposed to call when there's something strange in the neighborhood. You call the Ghostbusters. They have a whole song about it. Now, of course, not everyone bought immediately that this mysterious figure was a ghost. More than a few commenters on the original video suggested that it was just someone hanging their laundry out to dry, and the video was little more than all of us letting our imaginations run wild. I gotta be honest though, if it was late at night and I was on the rooftops of India, I think I would definitely be freaked out seeing this, because it does look like a ghost, even if it does look an awful lot like a bedsheet or someone in a Charlie Brown ghost costume. Sure, it could be a human tendency to form anthropomorphic patterns and objects we don't quite recognize, but it's also entirely possible that it is a ghost. I tried to do some follow-up on this. I was trying to figure out if the local police ever did end up investigating this, but I really don't think they would have been much help. You can't really arrest a ghost. Their hands would slip right on through the handcuffs and you would look just ridiculous. How are you gonna keep a ghost in jail? It's gonna walk right through a wall. You can't arrest a ghost, is what I'm trying to get across. And if you're looking for more footage of ghosts that cannot be arrested, Top 5 Scary has all of that and then some. Oh, you better believe. If you can think it up, there's a good chance we've done 2 or 3 videos on it. Ghouls, goblins, aliens, conspiracies, megalodons, everything and more. So hit subscribe. Please make sure you ring that little bell as well so you don't miss a single one of our videos, but do that at the end of this video, okay? Because I got 4 more freaky things coming out of India to show you right about now. Number 4, the pale figure. Now coming up next is a clip, also out of India, believe it or not, you know they're all going to be out of India, that went viral last year and captured the attention of paranormal enthusiasts, alien hunters, and skeptics alike. It's nice when you get everyone together like that. We all get equally confused by what we're watching. A strange humanoid-like figure was spotted walking across the road in India, confusing just about everybody. Whatever it was filmed walking alone steadily on a bridge at night in Jharkhand in eastern India, staggering through the night. Now the thing resembles a human, that much is sure, and that's what my brain tells me it should be. But the more you look at it, the more you start to wonder if maybe, just maybe, it might be something else. The creature is real gangly and has these long arms and pale white skin and a very skinny torso, and sounds a bit like your host actually, if I'm being honest. It looks a great deal more like a Silent Hill monster than it does a person. Motorcyclists were swerving out of the way of the figure, which stops and stares at them a bit before continuing to stroll onwards. Now naturally, footage this weird has people talking and wondering as to just what the heck this thing could possibly be. More than a few people suggested it could be an alien walking around the streets at night, explaining why it seems so confused about where it is. Others suggested a ghost, which would definitely be pretty spooky. It seems like it's in the physical plane though, so I don't know if it's a ghost. Finally, there's the realists, who have suggested that this could just be someone who had a long night and is lost, trying to find their way home, possibly on 1, 2, all of the substances, trying to get a good night's sleep. Now, I did some digging. As far as I know, nobody cracked this case, so we may never have a satisfying answer. So that is your cue to speculate and sound off in my little comment box. Number 3, a UFO over India. Coming up next is this clip shared online with the caption, "A weird set of lights above New Delhi." Let's take a little look-see. So in this clip, pretty clearly we can see some strange, happenings going on in the night sky. There's a scattering of lights above the city's horizon. Now, immediately, your first thought is probably to suggest that it might be drones, which is very reasonable. I feel like drones turn out to be a lot of UFO sightings. But the original poster states that drones really are not common for civilians in India at all and are even outright illegal in some parts of the country. And on top of that, the area that he's filming is said to be in the slums, where it is extra less likely that anybody's got any drones to spare. The video, when it was originally posted to Reddit, the poster added this for context. He said, "I saw this today around 8 p.m. in New Delhi with a friend. It was massive. This cannot be a building, as there is no tall building in that direction, only slums with a maximum height of 4 to 5 floors, but these lights looked as tall as the Burj Khalifa. There was a moderate wind going on, and I thought, if it's drones, why aren't they swaying? Not to forget, drones are illegal in India and especially in New Delhi. It looked massive in the sky. I wish the camera saw what my eyes could see, because it absolutely blew me away. I've been to drone shows, but this looked nothing like it. Any idea what this could be?" Now, some people in the comment section on the clip originally posted suggested that maybe this was a laser light show, but that was just speculation and nothing concrete. A particularly good selection that I enjoyed was that the original poster should have ran towards the lights to see what happens, live a little. Worst case, yeah, you get abducted, but you would get the ride of a lifetime and an amazing story to tell people. Just live a little, And if a UFO is not quite demonic enough for you, terribly sorry about that. Hopefully this next one will change your mind though. Number 2, the mutant goat. Coming in at the next spot, something a teeny tiny little bit different from others. I figured we'd take a small break from pale figures on CCTV and strange lights in the sky, and we'd show something we can all enjoy, something that's fun for the whole family, really bringing everybody together. Mutant goats. On August 16th, a Facebook user named Samira Isa posted these footage of a strange goat that she had discovered. Now, I don't know about you, I already find a goat kind of strange. I think they're definitely one of the most demonic animals by nature. If you've ever heard a goat scream, you definitely know they've got some evil inside them, but this one is on another level. As you can see right away, this goat came out with a face looking a lot more like a human's than a goat. The creature's got a long jawline, a huge nose, and almost like elf ears. It is not hard at all to see why this thing was freaking people out. I think if I saw this writhing and moving in person, I would be running out of the room, grab myself a Bible, a rosary, and some holy water, see about exorcising this demon mutant ghost. Goat. Mutant ghost goat. As soon as the mutant goat was born, it started capturing people's attention, unsurprisingly. Some were afraid the creature was demonic in some way. Others worried the creature was a byproduct of some twisted scientific experimentation. Not 100% sure what the purpose of making a goat with a human face would be. I don't know the practical application of that, but I don't question the facts, I just blindly repeat them. Now, others wondered if this creature hybrid came about naturally, if this was a merging of a deer and a zebra, or a cow and a goat, or a dog and a goat. I don't really know about all that. I'm not a science man, I'm not a scholar, but I don't know if that works the way it does. It might just be a horrific birth mutation that caused this goat to come out serving evil, or could it be something significantly more sinister? Something supernatural we couldn't hope to explain hiding away in those hooves? I'm gonna be honest, I don't want to know. I'm fine with the human face goat and me living on different continents. At number 1, the mountain lion ghost. And in our final spot for today is going to be this ghost footage coming out of Dehradun, India, that's got the internet on fire and paranormal investigators gluing their eyes to the screen to try and figure out just what was caught on camera. This clip was originally posted to Reddit on the ghost subreddit, not to spoil too much, which allegedly is in this video, but allegedly it's a ghost. The original uploader claims that people often hear these spine-chilling cries and screams coming from the railway tracks at night when there's no one around, with locals claiming that the screams come from the restless spirit of the woman who died in a train accident in that place, crying out in agony for those doomed to hear. Let's roll that clip so we can put you on edge tonight. I want you sweating. You hear that? Hard not to. Sounds like a screech that goes right through your ears and sticks into your heart. causing your hairs to stand up so straight you could use them as a level. Now, not everyone is as convinced as your easily convinced host that this is proof of a ghost. There were more than a few commenters who suggested that this screech wasn't from a ghost, but rather from a mountain lion, which is kind of like a ghost if a ghost was an alive, really big cat. Now, I'm a young Canadian man, I've got lots of experience with cougars and mountain lions too, and it definitely does sound like a big cat's growl into the night. They definitely sound terrifying. I think this is a rare case in which the sound that's making the creepy noises that isn't a ghost is worse than if it was a ghost. I would rather be haunted than go toe to toe with a mountain lion personally. I know there's at least a chance I could survive fighting a ghost, like a little bit.
Number 5, The Last Broadcast. This 1998 American horror film, written, produced, and directed by Stefan Avalos and Lance Wheeler, tells the story of a documentary filmmaker named David Lee and his investigation on the fact or fiction murders, in which got him convicted in a 1995 case, apparently with the murders of his team one night during an expedition to find the mythic Jersey Devil in the Jersey Pine Barrens. The film is shot mockumentary style and employs the found footage technique. The film is believed to be the first full-length feature film shot and edited entirely on consumer-level digital equipment. And on a budget too. I love this. I'm all here for it. Main character Lee seeks to discover the truth behind these killings while making his documentary. 4 men go to the Pine Barrens, where a psychic leads them to the apparent site. In the hunt, they broadcast a live show simultaneously via TV, internet, and amateur radio. They enter the Barrens, but only one emerges alive, as the others are brutally murdered.
The likely suspect would appear to be Stephen.
Oof, spooky. Seward, the only suspect, is then charged with the murder of his team. During his murder trial, Lee receives a box containing a damaged videotape reel, which he at first assumes is the tape from the team. With the murders caught on the tape, a blurred image of the real killer is seen, and is shocked to discover that the killer is the filmmaker himself, Lee. This is a great one. I really enjoyed this movie. It's low budget, young artists. It's a pretty good storyline too. And number 4, Man Bites Dog. Man Bites Dog is a 1992 Belgian violent comedy crime mockumentary written, produced, and directed by Remy Belval, André Bonzal, and Benoit Poulvard. I tried, sorry. Who are also the film's co-editors, cinematographers, and lead actor. The film received the André Cavins Award for the best film by the Belgian Film Critics Association, and since its release, the picture has become a cult classic, and received a rare NC-17 rating for its release in the US. Yeah, I'd up that rating to a rated R if it was me. After watching bits and pieces, I can't even say that without getting chills. Look, it's pretty disturbing stuff. Shot in black and white, it's gory, like very gory. Like if Tarantino made a gory snuff film. Yeah, I actually can't even put a clip into this because the found footage parts are way too disturbing. The film follows a crew of filmmakers following a serial killer, recording his horrific crimes for a documentary they are producing. At first though, dispassionate observers, they find themselves increasingly caught up in the chaotic and nihilistic violence, eventually becoming accomplices themselves. Ben, a witty, charismatic, and an easily enraged sadistic serial killer, takes the filmmakers and the crew to witness and watch the murders, explaining why, how, and when he chooses his victims. The viewer witnesses this grisly killings and crimes in graphic detail. The camera crew becomes more and more involved with the murders and even help Ben. During filming, 2 of Ben's crews are killed by Italian mobsters, and Ben and his crew have fun taking turns as they shoot the rival crew members while recording the entire process. Like I said, it's gory. Tons more gruesome killings, and Ben is finally arrested, but then escapes. At this point, someone takes revenge on Ben, and he finds his girlfriend and family all disturbingly murdered in revenge. The camera crew and Ben are all ambushed and shot by the rival mobsters. After the camera falls, it keeps running, and the film ends with the death and of the fleeing of the suspects. Only watch this film if you can stomach disturbing scenes. Trust me, it's pretty visual. Number 3, Creep. Creep is a 2014 American found footage psychological horror directed by Patrick Bryce and is filmed as found footage and does the genre well. Bryce portrays a videographer assigned to record an eccentric client insisting on filming numerous videos for his future unborn kid. Creep was inspired by Bryce's experiences on Craigslist. Bryce and lead actor Duplass refined the film story during filming, which resulted in multiple versions of each scene and several alternate scenarios and endings. Struggling videographer Aaron accepts an assignment to travel to a remote cabin where he meets his client Joseph, who explains he has an inoperable brain tumor and is expected to die before his pregnant wife gives birth. With this, he wishes to have Aaron record a video diary for his unborn child, and throughout the videos, Joseph demonstrates behavior that makes Aaron a little uneasy, which leads in Joseph confessing some pretty heinous stuff to him. As an increasingly freaked out Aaron intercepts a phone call from Angela, who's actually Joseph's sister, and warns Aaron to escape. Joseph then attempts to stop Aaron, leading to with Aaron escaping. Then, at home, Aaron starts receiving items in the mail from Joseph, including a recording of Joseph digging a grave. Creepy. A DVD is then sent to Aaron offering an apology in a public setting, which Joseph then kills him from behind with an axe. Spoiler alert, Joseph, now calling himself Bill, later receives a phone call from his newest target as he places a DVD of Aaron's murder alongside recordings of his past victims. That's scary. Yeah, I saw a play about a gruesome Craigslist ad once. They can get pretty disturbing. The film is widely known as one of Netflix's best found footage genre movies, and there's some great jump scares in there for you. Check it out yourselves. Number 2, UFO Abduction, the McPherson Tape. UFO Abduction, also known as the McPherson Tapes, is a 1989 American found footage sci-fi horror film written, produced, and directed by Dean Elialto. The film focuses on a family who are being terrorized by extraterrestrials during a birthday celebration. The late 80s and the early 90s were ravished by an overflow of popular paranormal genre movies and TV such as The X-Files and Unsolved Mysteries. The film begins with a brief introduction that proposes the film as legitimate and one of the strongest pieces of evidence for ETs yet. On October 8th, 1983, the Van Hees family gathers in Connecticut woods to celebrate 5-year-old sister's birthday. One of the brothers uses his handheld camera to record the night's events. The evening passes relatively uneventful as the family celebrates. However, after a small power outage, the brothers walk to the neighbors to investigate, and the three eventually come across an extraterrestrial spaceship landed in the woods and are shocked to see 3 small aliens walking around.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Holy sh**. Holy.
Yeah, that's creepy. They flee in a panic after the aliens notice them. Yeah, I would too if I saw them just walking around the forest. They return to the house and load shotguns, but are divided on whether they should remain in the house or leave. Classic horror movie move. After a while, they assume the visitors have left, but notice all their watches have stopped. They conclude the party, but are terrified as the aliens attempt to enter the house through the windows and chimney. Eric, one of the brothers, shoots and brings an alien's body inside the place and puts it in the back room. After securing the house once more and turning up the radio to block out the voices, the others finally convince Michael, another brother, to put down his camera and resume their card game. From its position across the room, the recording camera glitches and records what looks like 3 small gray aliens emerging from the back room. The tape ends as the aliens close in on the family. The film claims that the Van Hees' whereabouts are still unknown and that viewers should contact the producers if they have any information. Look, I'm the guy who wears the tinfoil hats. This is pretty good. I liked it. The footage from the woods, the small creatures, the Project Blue Book warning at the beginning of the film. It's a Sci-Fiers Friday night. Great film, and short, only an hour. And coming in at the number 1 spot, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a 2003 American horror film starring Jessica Biel and R. Lee Ermey. Its plot we're probably all familiar with if we've seen the numerous takes on this classic movie. It follows a group of young adults traveling through Texas who encounter Leatherface and his murderous family, a remake of Tobe Hooper's 1974 film and the 5th of the franchise. Erin and her boyfriend and friends are on their way to a Lynyrd Skynyrd concert in Texas. While driving through Texas, the group picks up a severely traumatized hitchhiker walking in the middle of the road. After they talk with the hitchhiker, she takes her own life with a concealed pistol. The group contacts police where they are led to an old plantation house where Thomas Hewitt is waiting, also known as Leatherface. Erin escapes and heads towards the woods, but Leatherface, armed with his chainsaw, follows each of the concert-driven friends one by one in an all-out slasher gore fest. Yeah, I watched this movie when I was 11 years old. No wonder I can't sleep at night. Erin escapes into the woods with Leatherface chasing close behind her and her friends, but she eventually injures him and halts the pursuit. Leatherface suddenly appears in the road and slashes the car with his chainsaw, but Erin manages to escape. 2 days later, 2 investigating officers are killed by Leatherface while doing a crime scene investigation of the Hewitt home, and the narrator states that this case still remains open.
Come on back here, follow me.
Yeah, that's absolutely terrifying, alright? Seems like this franchise was loosely based around a cannibalistic family in the South and actual evidence, case, and trial of Ed Gein.
Number 5, Spree. Coming in first on our list is the newest release and a new age classic that I think, give it a few years, will get the recognition. Spree. It was called American Psycho for the digital age, and I think that fits. Spree stars Joe Keery of Stranger Things and Joe fame, putting down the baseball bat and the hair gel and sitting behind the wheel of a rideshare service, playing a down-on-his-luck young man named Kurt who wants nothing more than to be a viral, famous social media star. Ah, very relatable. But in a sea of unboxing videos, react TikToks, let's plays, confession videos, hashtag challenges, apologies, and top 5 videos about horror movies, Kurt struggles to find any sort of audience for his content whatsoever and decides that the best way to stand out on the internet is to live stream himself snuffing his passengers he picks up in his rideshare app. Okay, you know, to each their own. I'll stick to doing YouTube videos, you do you. Now, Spree is not the smartest movie out there. The social satire is a little basic, to be honest, and it could have done with a lot more fleshing out on its commentary on social media addiction and internet validation, but it makes for a very solid foundation for a flick. It's got a plot that probably would have made for an okay Black Mirror episode, and maybe this movie wouldn't have worked as well if it wasn't for how fun Joe Keery is. Maybe I'm extremely biased because I love the guy, and because like most of the Western world, Steve Harrington is the only reason I watch Stranger Things, but he brings a super fun mania to the social media addicted lunatic. The American Psycho comparison, definitely apt. That's one of my absolute favorite movies of all time for just how sick and like entertainingly evil Patrick Bateman is. You know he's the most reprehensible, unlikable character ever put to film, but Christian Bale is just so damn charismatic you love him. And that's what's happening here. Joe Keery somehow manages to be both convincing as a really scary psychopath, but also oddly sympathetic and earnest. You know, it's the desperation. Have you ever seen a man soaked head to toe in blood, shaking and quivering after doing something unspeakable, and he's still asking you to subscribe to his channel? And speaking of vapid, deranged, dead-eyed internet personalities looking for fame, if you're looking for more scary movie reviews, ghosts, goblins, and aliens, well, click through to Top 5 Scary and subscribe. We've got loads more content with me behind the wheel, but not really. I can't drive. Look at me. I just skate. Number 4, VHS. VHS eventually exploded into a mega hit franchise. I think there's like 5 or 6 of them, not even including spin-offs, but it all comes back to the daring original. VHS was a collection of horror movie shorts, all under the same theme of bizarre found footage horror, and the result is electric. It's like getting to sit at home for your own private horror movie film festival. Now, the collections of shorts featured were all directed by, at the time, fairly underground independent horror movie directors, but now looking back at it, it's like they've assembled a really impressive pantheon of rising horror legends. We got stuff from Addard Wingard, who gave us You're Next in the 2016 Blair Witch reboot, which was okay. We got one from David Bruckner, who would go on to direct The Ritual in the 2022 Hellraiser. And we've got T.I. West, who would make the A24 darling Pearl. So it's a film with nothing but wall-to-wall talent and creativity at their best. It also made the format of being an anthology movie like part of the plot of the movie itself, which I thought was very meta and juicy. A group of career crooks film themselves committing violent and vile acts, and hey, I wonder if they knew the guy from the first movie. And they are commissioned to heist a single object, a mysterious VHS tape. The guys break into the house and find the tape, and the movie is them watching it and then cutting back to whatever strange mystery is happening with the criminals. It's very inventive, it's very immersive, it's very, very cool. Now, all the segments are really cool, but I want to shout out the shorts Tuesday the 17th for being a very high concept idea for a horror movie I can't say I've seen elsewhere, and I can't even say too much without giving it away, but it uses the VHS format really fun. And another shout out for Something Strange Happened to Emily when she was younger. Again, very inventive. It's told exclusively through video calls and the internet, and it features a hearty dose of medical body horror, wild twists, and just like the tiniest little bit of alien stuff. Just like a little bit. Number 3, Lake Mungo. Okay, let's go back to another lesser known one with Lake Mungo. This one's an Australian feature, came out around 2008. Lake Mungo is a healthy, hearty dose of scares and thrills and heart-wrenching family drama. Horror and family drama go hand in hand like the girl from Hereditary and a stop sign. Too soon? That was too far? That was too far? That was too far. In Lake Mungo, we're in the perspective of Matthew Palmer, a young man who has been depressed and broken shortly after his sister's drowning shattered his family's well-being and mental health. However, Matthew begins to see signs of his sister everywhere, feeling her presence in the house with him, and mostly because he keeps seeing her ghost all around. He sets up a surveillance camera system all over their house and begins making a documentary about his experience hunting for his sister and closure. As the investigation as to whether or not his sister really is haunting them, Matthew ends up uncovering family secrets that were long thought buried and finds himself haunted by his sister's loss in a way much grander than any ghost story could. Now, what I really like about this one is pretty much right up until credits, you'll be asking yourself what's happening. Not in a confusing way, like an Inception sort of thing. It's just got a bunch of fun and clever twists that kind of keep you guessing the entire film, keep you asking questions. The film uses the medium well. It allows the audience to go on this journey with the family, where you're there with them and you're asking too what's happening, if it's really a haunting or if it's all just a sad family wanting to see their daughter one last time. It honestly ends up being really heartwarming in a bizarre way. You don't see a lot of horror movies that kind of get you right here. And without spoiling like too much, because I do want you to see it, unlike Hereditary, this one doesn't really have like a happy ending, but it doesn't have a horrifically sad ending. It's kind of bittersweet. It's genuinely very touching. So if you're looking for something to tug at your heartstrings a lot while also making your hair stand on end, you can't go wrong with Lake Mungo. Number 2 is Wreck. Maybe you've already seen this one because it was a smash hit commercially and critically, but if you haven't, man, come on, you really oughta. Wreck is found footage stuff at its best, putting you smack dab in the POV of the action, and it makes you feel like you're both part of this horrifying nightmare, but also kind of like you're like an FBI agent watching evidence recovered years after the fact in a dark room. Wreck follows a film crew that's recording something when they find themselves caught in a way bigger story. When a neighbor attacks someone and bites them, police quarantine off a building for an unknown reason, and you get to experience it all go down in first person as more and more people inside the building seem to be turning into something a little rabid, vicious, and more than a little undead. Wreck does zombies 28 Days Later style, with a pretty interesting twist that I won't give away if you still haven't seen it. They're fast, violent, and unpredictable, and it makes for a super entertaining movie watching the protagonists try and fend off a horde of undead in these really cramped, tight, claustrophobic spaces. There's a lot of excellent choreography work going on here to make sure everything fits in the frame, and the first person view of the camera really makes it feel like you are stuck in there with them too. If you let yourself get into it, you really have a good time with this one. Like, if there was ever really a zombie apocalypse happening, I think we could all agree there'd be gigabytes worth of cell phone footage to go through. So in a bizarre way, this movie about a zombie apocalypse feels oddly realistic. Even just outside of being a good found footage horror movie, Wreck is also just a super good zombie movie if you're into that sort of thing. They remade it into Quarantine for Americans a year later, but if you want my advice, skip the remake and just go for the original, and that is honestly true of like 99.9% of all horror movies anyway. Okay, before we get into number 1 properly, I wanted to cheat a little bit and break the rules of top 5. Don't tell anybody that I added some extras, but I wanted to shout out a few honorable mentions that I love that didn't make the cut. Blair Witch is going to be the first one. The original, the sequels are all iffy. Number 2 is going to be Troll Hunters. Really fun monsters. Yeah. Paranormal Activity, it's pretty good. It's not super my thing, but it's pretty good. And finally, wanted to shout out Host really quick. It's about a seance that happens on Zoom, just came out, very modern. Okay, there we go. So number 1 on the list is going to be Creep. It's got nothing to do with Radiohead. Sorry. Coming to us from Patrick Bryce and indie darling Mark Duplass, he takes a break from earnestly mumbling through an indie movie to play a completely chilling, well, the title said it, creep. This movie is basically just watching Mark Duplass be really weird in front of a camera for an hour and 20 minutes. It's a great example of when you can do a lot more with a lot less. This movie is as absolutely bare bones as it gets. There's 2 actors in the entire movie, and they're the 2 guys who wrote and directed the movie. A struggling videographer, Aaron, gets an offer to film a series of personal diaries for a strange client, Joseph, who has an inoperable brain tumor and wants to leave a series of videos behind for his unborn child. Which does sound nice, until Aaron gets there and discovers very quickly something is really off about this, and this isn't going to be a normal job. This movie is all overall performance, and Duplass crushes it as the bizarre, mysterious Joseph. He plays him really, realistically creepy, like he's the kind of guy you'd meet on a bus and spend the rest of the day thinking about. Like, you know something is wrong with the guy, but you're not really sure in what way and just how afraid of him and how dangerous he might be until it's too late. It's a movie that really gets in your head and gets right under your skin. If you leave the movie terrified of the main character, but also very enamored in equal measures, worry not, because Bryce and Duplass agree with you, since there's a Creep 2, which is apparently just as good as the first. I haven't seen it yet, I only have so much time, but I should see it eventually, since there is a Creep 3 in early pre-production stages. So although this guy may be a completely unsettling weirdo, we love this creep and can't get enough. He belongs here. Number 5, 11BX137. A gadget blog named Gadgets with 2 Z's caught international viral attention after they received an exceedingly strange, mysterious CD sent to their address. The blank gold CD has a series of letters and numbers written on it, and no other markers denoting what it could be. The contents of the CD when played are very confusing, to say the least. Strange and downright horrifying. A hooded figure dressed like a bubonic plague doctor, standing menacingly in what looks like a burnt-out, destroyed remnant of a building. He just sorta appears to be standing and communicating in some kind of code. Wandering, posing, revealing a blinking light emanating from the palm of his hand. Its hand, maybe? This thing does kind of have SCP-049 vibes. After about a minute, the hooded figure faces the wall, where he stays for the remainder of the video. But where the video goes from creepy to I might never sleep again levels of horrifying, is that when you run the audio through a spectrogram, a fancy word for a visualization of sound, images begin to appear of tortured bodies and a chilling threat spelling out, "You are already dead." That's the kind of thing you'd love to receive in the mail unmarked. Internet sleuths the net over came together to try and uncover and unmask this nefarious figure in the terrifying video. Now, if it's any comfort for you, the images found in the spectrogram appear to be excerpts from low-rent horror movies, and people found screen captures that matched up pretty well. Speculation ran wild as to what this video could possibly mean. Was there a secret message or a threat behind its cryptic codes? Was it just an advertisement for something? Or just a bored artist trying to get somebody's attention the only way he knew how? Well, eventually, someone did come forward. A man by the name of Parker Warner Wright claims to be the plague doctor in the video, and said the reason for the video was nothing more than an art project to entertain and confuse people. Like most cryptic, scary artists, when he was asked about why the video was made, all he had to say was, "I see my work as waves on the oceans." Thanks. Number 4, I feel fantastic. Now, if you're a student in horrifying, unexplained YouTube clips and legends, perhaps you've been unfortunate enough to run into this one before. But if you haven't, I'm sorry. It's been years since I Feel Fantastic first graced the YouTube algorithm, and yet we're still no closer to understanding, uncovering what's going on here. The video is pretty short and sweet, but I doubt you'll actually be able to finish it. It's a mannequin-looking android named Tara, singing her little song for the camera. Now, she's got the chutzpah down pat, but her natural stage presence could use a little bit of work, maybe her tone too, because she kind of sings discordantly and completely terrifying. It sounds like the kind of thing that you would hear a few minutes before you wake up strapped to an ice-cold slab operating table in a dank basement. The robot, we know, was built by John Bergeron, and that's about all we know. He envisioned his beloved Tara as being an android pop sensation, kind of like what I think Grimes might be. And I really don't want to shut down Tara's career before it's blossomed, but she's got some serious hurdles to solve first. The incredibly unsettling nature of the video caused speculators to run wild with theories about what they were seeing. The most extreme ones go so far as to suggest John was a murderer, and Tara was a mannequin wearing the clothes of his victims. Some suggest he's just a very strange man who wanted a singing companion in his home. In all the years since this clip went viral, we've never got a follow-up on this bizarre video, and I doubt we're ever going to get more answers on this one. I wonder if Tara is still out there, if she's still singing proudly, or if she's rotting in a basement somewhere. I just hope she's still practicing, you know? Number 3, Croatian Stalker. Do you ever feel like someone might be watching you? I know I do. Quite a lot, although it could be because someone is watching me right now, you're watching me right now, but I also just mean in my day-to-day. It's spine-chilling to imagine that somebody's following you without you realizing for gosh knows what, and trailing you around, preventing you from feeling safe. This next video, appropriately and concisely titled Croatian Stalking Tape, is a footage of two men recording themselves being pursued by a masked stranger. And according to the uploader, this was the last time either of them were ever seen. The video was uploaded not by anyone in the video, but rather a third party who somehow got a hold of it. And the only evidence we can find for it is that he claims it was recorded in 2005 and is a piece of evidence in a missing persons case for these two individuals. In the video, we can clearly see the two friends initially enjoying a night on the town together when they're apprehended by a very strange man wearing a sack over his head. You know, normal stuff. At first, the sack-clad man appears, well, I don't want to say friendly per se, but he's not outwardly hostile. Just bizarre, slouching and bending and walking in a way that kind of intones that either it's not a human or it's a human who's had a really long night. The two friends then try their best to elude the pursuer, who does not seem keen on letting them go. They try to lose him by making their way to a hotel lobby, where they proceed to call for an elevator to try and find some respite from their stalker, only for the elevator door to open and show them the last thing they could have ever wanted to see, as they are face to face with the sack man and the doors close. If the video uploader is to be believed, this could really be the last thing they ever saw. It was hard to try and find any more information about this video. I did some digging, but I couldn't get any solid answers as to where this came from, who these people were, and if they really went missing. There's some speculation that it could be a very elaborate fake, which is always a possibility. Let me know if anybody's got any intel on this one. Number 2, video dating. Hey, dating is hard. We've all been there. Let me tell you, since that Dahmer show dropped on Netflix, it's not been easy for me. In today's world, it can be so hard to meet that perfect match, especially if you're on the brink of sanity. This video, uploaded and titled Video Dating Tape, was allegedly found in the VCR purchased at a car boot sale, which, if you're not familiar with that term, it's kind of like an English flea market where you sell stuff out of your cars. The VHS is a low-quality clip of someone innocently enough trying to prevent themselves for a video dating service. It starts with a 36-year-old man, Tony, kind of awkwardly explaining what he's all about. You know how they go. We've all been there. Where it starts to get unsettling, though, is the discordant screaming that we can hear in the background. And the guy in the video seems like he's mentally degrading very fast.
Someone that can...
He starts smacking himself in the head in frustration, tripping over his words, and accidentally revealing probably a lot more than he means to. Especially when he starts to say funny, flirty little things like, I'm looking for someone who doesn't mind disappearing for a long time, and cute little sweet nothings like, I'm looking for someone who likes a long walk on the beach, and someone I can spend the rest of their life with. Now the video is almost too perfect, you know? And the only thing that makes you wonder if maybe it's not a fake is just how convincingly creepy this 36-year-old bachelor is acting. If anyone has got some answers for this one, please let me know, because this one really did send a chill down my spine trying to watch it. And hey, if anyone wants, at the end of the video, Tony left his address if you'd like to reach out to him, if you like pina coladas getting caught in the rain and want to spend the rest of your life with him. Number 1, Sad Satan. Sad Satan is a deeply mysterious, lost video game, allegedly emanating from the dark web. And it's wrapped in intrigue and controversy and has all the makings of a great classic internet urban legend. The game first came into the mainstream when the owner of the now defunct Obscure Horror Corner YouTube channel was sent a link to this strange game, with the sender saying that they found it on a deep web page where users could post random files. The actual game's contents are deeply disturbing and unsettling. It truly feels like something you were never meant to see. There's not a whole lot of depth to the gameplay. It just features the player wandering down maze after maze of monochromatic hallways. A strange audio plays all around you from all sorts of sources, like an old Swedish number station, disembodied, blood-curdling screams. In some versions of the game, there are enemies that appear to be ghostly children figures standing in the maze with you. Images flash repeatedly through the gameplay, featuring pictures of notorious criminals. Audio from recordings of criminals like Charles Manson can be heard and seen. The game ends rather abruptly. If you run into any of the haunted children in the game, they'll end you and the game will be over. The mystery behind Sad Satan is arguably bigger than the game itself. Where did it come from? To date, no one truly knows who developed it or why or what their intentions even were. After the game became big thanks to the Obscure Horror Corner, there was a drove of interest in the game, leading to sinister double copies being passed around online masquerading as the real one. And these variants would include things like illegal content inside the game or dangerous malware, as users had reported that their computers would act sluggish or even outright shut down irreversibly after downloading the widely released copy. The obscure horror channel shut down after Sad Satan started to get attention, leading to a ton of speculation there. Was the original uploader of the video the creator of the game and he was trying to garner some sort of viral reputation for it? Or did he feel some sort of guilt or responsibility for getting this game out into the mainstream? It's been years and we're still no closer to getting any of the answers on this.